Hey, H-Man. Okay, let me just do a quick sound check. Hey, H-Man. Okay, we're good. Hey, man. So this is going to be the weekly live stream for those that missed the yesterday's live stream and the day before. This is a new product launch, so we have the RTX 4060 Ti launched earlier this week, and then today is the launch of the RX 7600, which we have here. You can see it right there. I have it installed in this system that we're going to be testing it on. So this is going to be all about the... Well, what happened? This is out of frame now, isn't it? Let's do that, I guess. Hey, Joey. So, Joey, I decided to follow in your footsteps and get an ASRock graphics card. I've never actually had an ASRock graphics card before, so I decided, I'm going to get one of these, see what it's all about at the entry level. Basically, downgrade myself all the way down to 1080p, the 1080p gaming experience, so I can truly understand what it's like for people who are in the entry level to mid-range segment, what it's like gaming at 1080p again, and seeing if the struggle is real. That's basically what this is going to be. So this is going to be very similar in terms of the format to what I did back when the Intel Arc A770 launched. In fact, I'm considering, I kind of want to get the Intel A750 now. Just to have something that is a direct comparison to this graphics card, because currently the only graphics card that I have that is very similar to the RX 7600 would be the Intel A770. But the difference is the A770, it's more expensive, it has more VRAM. So it's kind of like one level above this card, even though its performance is less consistent. Sometimes the Intel graphics card, the A770, is going to be faster than the 7600, and oftentimes it's going to be slower than the 7600. So we're going to go ahead and look. Yeah, I know Micro Center has the A750, because I went in there today. Let me just pull it up real quick as people join the stream. So, hey, so Joey, just fun fact, I went into Micro Center and I asked them, like, how many 7600s and how many 4060 Ti's have you guys sold? And they told me that they sold one 4060 Ti. They sold one yesterday at 8 p.m., like right around closing. That was the only 4060 Ti that they managed to sell so far. And when I got there, I was like, okay, so I'm going to get the 7600. Well, at first I asked them if they had the reference card, because I wanted to get the reference card, but they didn't have it. So then I was like, okay, do you have one that has 3 fans? Because the 3-fan one is probably going to be quieter. And they had the ASRock. So that's why I ended up getting the ASRock. And I was thinking, you had, at one point, you had a ASRock Tai Chi 7900X TX, I believe. Oh, you got the Phantom Gaming. Okay. I think that graphics card looks similar to the one that I got. Here, let me share my screen so you guys can see which one I ended up getting. If you guys saw the unboxing video, you would have seen it. What happened here? Why is the image gone? No, what happened to the picture? There it is. There it is. So this is the one that I have installed in the system right now.
I've forgotten something.
This is the triple fan. This is probably the highest end RX 7600 you can get. The Sapphire 7600 seems like a good option. Same price. Yeah. Yeah, if you're going for MSRP, I just wanted to get something that I knew would be the most overclockable, the most... It basically has the most headroom. So this one has the beefiest cooler on it. This cooler is kind of overkill for the TDP on this card, because this graphics card only uses like 150 watts. So the triple fan on this with the large, 2.0 You can see it extends over. It's like 2.3 in terms of the thickness there, with the shroud hanging over, and then it extends above the bracket. So this is the one that I have. It's installed. You guys can see on the camera, I put the webcam showing the computer case. I took the side panel off because I had the side panel on, and if I do that, you guys can barely see it because there's a panel. There's like a plastic panel, and then there's the metal mesh there. So for those wondering, that case, this computer case, actually, I can go ahead and let's do something here. Where's the floor cam? There we go. Let me just make this larger so you guys can see it temporarily. So it's kind of blurry because this camera, it's low light. But anyway, this is the graphics card. You can see it there. It hangs way off there. There's the Noctua. This is the Noctua NHD 14. We are using the Ryzen 9 7950X3D CPU. So it's, you know, basically no CPU bottleneck there. Just to see what this thing can do. Just to get the best picture. I know most people that are probably going to get one of these graphics cards, they're probably not going to have a CPU that's of this price tier. You probably end up going with something like, let me move this a little bit over there. Yeah, so you're probably going to end up with like a 7800 X3D, or maybe an Intel i5 or i7, something along those lines. That would be my guess. That would be what I would recommend pairing up with a graphics card like this, assuming you're on a 1080p monitor. I don't think it'll destroy it. I think that's optimistic. I think they'll trade blows in certain games. I think in some games, the 4060 will be faster, and in other games, the 7600 will be faster. But they'll be very similar. I said this in the previous live stream. I think that overall, the 7600 is... this one has 3 fans. So the card that I have installed is the card that you see on screen. It's this one, the ASRock Phantom Gaming. So it is $20 more than MSRP, but you're paying for that extra large cooler. It is dead quiet. That's all I can say. Like, the first thing I noticed is you run, like, Furmark and stuff, this thing does not generate any noise at all because the cooler is so big on a 150-watt TDP card. So I think ASRock, I'll say this, ASRock, I've never had an ASRock graphics card before. Joey getting the Tai Chi kind of convinced me to try ASRock out, indirectly. So what I can say is they really overbuilt this thing. In terms of pricing this, at where they're at in terms of the price, they're giving you a lot for the money because this cooler is just kind of too big. I'm just being completely honest. The cooler is really big for a low wattage GPU. So it means that you're getting like, you know, overclocking headroom in that regard if you wanted to do that. To keep the cost down, there is no dual BIOS. It's a single BIOS. And I'm okay with that because, of course, you know, this is a sub $300 product. I don't expect fancy things like dual BIOS and that sort of thing. Even though this one is probably the most premium 7600 that you can find. The XFX has a triple fan. I think they're the only other one. Oh, Gigabyte has one as well. So Gigabyte, ASRock, and XFX have triple fan oversized coolers for this card. I think everyone else, Power Color, Sapphire, there's another XFX, Asus, and MSI, they all only have the double fan cooler.
Not to worry, I'll simply send someone to fetch it. As soon as I remember.
They had some that were $50 over. I didn't really see any. At least not for the 7600. So just to finish up the story, so I went in there and I asked them like how many 4060 Ti's have you guys sold? And they told me they sold one yesterday at 8 p.m. around closing. Because I told them, you know, like one of my friends came in here yesterday around like 3 p.m. and he asked the same question, and at that time you guys hadn't sold any. So then I asked them like how many 7600s have you guys sold? And they're like none so far. So I said, okay, I want to get the whichever one you've got that has the triple fans. I want one of those. So they went in the back. They actually didn't even know which ones they had. So they had to go and check in the back. So I ended up getting this one. So I was the first one. It made me think of like those comments on YouTube videos where someone posts the comment first. Because they're like, congratulations, you're the first one to purchase the 7600. I was like, okay, that's such an achievement. I feel so accomplished right now. You know, the first person at this Micro Center to buy a RX 7600. So it was interesting, you know, like it's interesting going to a GPU launch and not having to wait in line. It is satisfying to show up, you know, casually just show up, no line, no worry about them not having them. You just casually go in there and like, you guys have any 7600s in stock? And they're like, I don't know, let's go see. So then they had them. So that's basically how it worked out. So I am going to be testing this card just like I did the Intel card and the 7900 XT when that card was new. We're going to be... If I'm going to do a full review, I'm going to compare this with the... let's see. So here's the box. The box is right here. I'm going to compare it with the 480. The RX 480. And the only other really old card that I have that would be comparable in terms of the price at the time. Although technically, this is the GTX 970 for those wondering. So the GTX 970, this card is technically more expensive because this card had an MSRP of $329. And realistically, the AIBs, like this MSI one in particular, this one sold for $349. So quite a bit more than the 7600. However, when you look at the performance improvement going from a 3.5 gigabyte plus 512 megabyte GTX 970 all the way up to this 8 gigabyte RX 7600, you know, that's a massive difference in terms of the performance. And likewise, the RX 480 or RX 580, you know, going from one of these to the 7600 is also going to be a world of a difference. So it's all about, you know, like who is the target buyer for this product. That's what I'm saying. So like someone who's on a really old graphics card, you know, that is what this is all about. Like I don't expect people who are on like 3060s or 2070s or 2080s to consider a card like this. In fact, if you're on a 2080, there's no point because this card is actually very similar to a 2080 or a 2080 Super in terms of its performance. So, yeah, definitely not worth the upgrade there.
I remember the look on my retainers' faces when I informed them of my plans today.
All right, let's switch back over here.
Unable to muster the courage to say anything in opposition. Yes.
All right, so let's test this game. We're going to be testing... Let me pull up the 1080p. You can't go beyond 60. Oh, they added a new FPS. They used to only have 30 and 60. So they've added 45 now for some reason. VSync is off. Render resolution 1:1. Everything is maxed. Oh, I want to say... Oh, one thing that's not maxed is this one. Highest. So this game supports FSR2 and SMAA. I think SMAA is the one that's harder to run because FSR2 is the super sampling or the upscaling. So we're going to use SMAA, volumetric fog. Motion blur, I don't like that, so I leave it off. And then the only other thing on here is bloom. Crowd density is set to high. It's either low or high, so it's on high. And then co-op team effects, subsurface scattering is set to high. And then anastrophic filtering is all the way on X16. So it's maxed out. Let's see. Actually, did I get something in the mail? Oh yeah, there's Primo Gems because they had a maintenance patch. So we get free wishes. It is really interesting playing at 1080p. It's been a long time since I've actually tried to play a game at this resolution. I feel like Majin Buu, I just lost like over 50% of my power, or actually more, in terms of the graphics power. But this game is actually really easy to run on most modern systems, so I don't think this will be a problem. When I was in the checkout line, oh, how's this compare to a 8600 GT? If I had one of those, that would be another one that I would like to compare this to. The problem with that card is I don't think you can actually run most of these modern games with that graphics card anymore, because it doesn't support DX11. It would be funny to try, though, to see what you can actually play with the old GPU. I do have a really old, I have the old AMD, the Radeon HD 7850. The 7850 is the same size. Wait, actually, no, it's not. Never mind. It was the same price, though. It was like a $250 graphics card back in 2012 or 2012, 2013. So about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that graphics card was basically what powers the PlayStation 4, the original PlayStation 4, not the Pro. So, oh, you actually have the 8600 GT. I'll think about it. I might take you up on that offer, because I'm thinking of doing like content about really old graphics cards, like old graphics cards from the, the 2000s. I only really have like my really old X850 XT. I think I might have, well, the 5770 might count. I think that was 2009.
Once there was a glorious kingdom established.
Oh, this thing reset. I haven't played Genshin Impact in a long time. That's why like all this stuff is... There's like a new banner. Yeah, there's a whole new banner. Oh, it's just reruns, so you can skip this stuff. But so far, it seems indistinguishable to the higher-end GPU, and that's because we are running at 1080p resolution. We'll throw up like Afterburner and stuff in a little bit once we test like different games. This isn't the only game. I just typically start with this game and work my way up. This card is targeted to people who play yeah. So that was the other thing I wanted to say. I almost completely forgot, so thanks for mentioning esports. So when I was in the checkout line, it's weird because in Micro Center, normally when you buy a graphics card, the sales associate they'll take your graphics card up to the front and put it in like a checkout cage so that the cashier will go and get it when it's your turn to check out at the register. But in this case, they were having some problem with their printer, so they literally just handed me the graphics card and let me like walk down to the front on my own. Actually, I think the audio... Is the audio too loud? I'll probably have to turn the game audio down. Or is it off completely? I can't tell.
Have fun with this gift. Dare to mess with me.
Hold on, is the game audio too loud? It shouldn't be. If the game audio is too loud, let me know and I can turn it down. But yeah, so when I was in the checkout line, because I was literally standing in the line. I was standing in the line with this big box, like this Phantom Gaming 7600 box, and the guy in front of me, there were two guys in front of me. One of them kept glancing at the box. One of them kept glancing over at the box of the graphics card, and then finally he asked me, "What kind of games are you gonna play with that?" And I told him, whatever games, like esports games, League of Legends, Fortnite, even though I don't actually play those games, but also the newer stuff. And he's like, can it handle the, he was asking me like, can it handle the modern games with all the textures turned up? So I immediately knew that he was referring to the 8GB VRAM, which means he had done his homework on the graphics card. So I was like, yeah, it can, as long as you stay at 1080p. See, that's the thing. This graphics card, if you're on 1080p and all you do is play esports games, and occasionally you'll play like Sons of the Forest or Meet Your Maker or Redfall or Dead Island 2, like those type of games, you'll be totally fine with this graphics card at 1080p. Like it's a non-issue. We'll test it. We'll test like Hogwarts Legacy in a little bit and see how it runs at 1080p with the max settings. But it shouldn't really be a problem. So he was like, okay. I said, yeah. As long as you have a 1080p monitor, it shouldn't be a problem. Like I don't plan to use this card with a 1440 or 4K monitor, because that's not its intended use case. But yeah, someone said it earlier. There was a comment made earlier about esports. Yeah. Esports shooters at 1080p. Exactly. Yeah, that's basically what this is. Hey, hey, booger. How did that not count? Oh, there was another one. There was one in the back. Okay. This gives me an excuse to test different games. It also gives me an excuse to bring out the really old GPUs again, which is what I've been wanting to do. Because see, I think the best case scenario, and I even told the guys at Micro Center, like when I was getting this card, I told the sales, there was like 3 sales guys, they had nothing to do because it was really slow at the time. So I was like telling all 3 of them, like, this card is going to replace an ancient GTX 970 or an RX 480, like either or. It's gonna be used in a PC that currently utilizes one of those cards. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a massive upgrade from one of those. So it makes sense, right? It has to make sense. The upgrade has to make sense. It has to actually be worth the upgrade. Hogwarts Legacy high, it should work no problem. But at Ultra, it might run out of VRAM. But we're gonna see how this compares to the RX 480, the GTX 970. I'm trying to think what else. Maybe a really old graphics card like a HD 7850, if anybody's still using one of those. The reason why I feel like testing a really old graphics card that is technically not even supported anymore, I feel like that's kind of not a very good test, because I think the number of people that are still using an HD 7850, they're probably very, very few and far between, that it would kind of be hilarious to show the difference between one of those cards and this card, to the point where is it actually worth showing the difference? So I feel like definitely RX 480 and GTX 970, because 480 and 970 cover a lot of different cards.
Sure, I've forgotten something.
By comparing this to a GTX 970, that includes GTX 1060, it includes the older like GTX 780 Ti, because all those cards are in the same kind of window on the average. And then by comparing the 480, you're including the 580, the 570, you know, like anything in that kind of, even technically R9 Fury is also included in that, because R9 Fury was not even that much faster than the RX 480. In fact, the RX 580 is basically the same as a R9 Fury in terms of the performance. and a GTX 980 Ti is also close in that regard. Like, it's not like super far away from that. So I think those are the two that I'm definitely going to compare this card to. I'm considering whether or not I should also compare it with the Vega 64 and the GTX 1080. The reason why I'm leaning against doing that is because I feel like the only people who that would be relevant for are those who bought either those who sat on a Vega 64 for so many years or a GTX 1080 for so many years, and they are just now thinking of upgrading. But the person who bought a GTX 1080 when it was new is not the same buyer as someone who bought an RX 480. And I feel like the sort of person that buys an RX 480 is more likely to buy an RX 7600 than someone who bought a GTX 1080 or a RX Vega 64. And how are they going to automatically just go and buy one of these? See what I'm saying? It doesn't really make any sense. The only way that would make sense is if the person who had a Vega 64 never upgraded their 1080p monitor and they're okay with remaining on 1080p for the next like 3 years. So that's the only scenario that makes sense to me. How does it compare? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to compare it to the A770. You know, actually, I'm really tempted now to buy an A750. I really want an A750 now. After I bought this, I was installing it in the computer, and I was taking out the Arc GPU, and I was like, man, I can compare it to the A770, although technically I feel like that's the wrong comparison. Because the A770 is more like a 6700 XT competitor. Even though it doesn't match those cards, it oftentimes falls short to the point where it ends up getting compared with the 6600 XT a lot. That's why I feel like, yeah, it's a good comparison to compare A770 with this graphics card. But I feel like it's more fair to compare it with A750, if that makes sense, because A750's original price was $249, so that puts it right in line. I know there was a price drop, but if I go on Micro Center right now, like, let me see, like, what's the A750? So here's the problem, like A750. Here, let me bring this up again. A750. This is the reason why I think the A750 is the right comparison. See, because the A750 at Micro Center, like if you're buying AIB, like the ASRock Challenger, $289. It's the same price as this card, roughly. So it's like the Intel equivalent of this card in terms of the price, in terms of where it's meant to sit on the price stack. So I kind of want one of these. I mean, I'll probably compare it with the 770. I just don't think that's the right comparison. I know a lot of reviewers have already done that. And what it shows, at least in their reviews, A770 wins as you go up to 1440 and 4K. But if you stay at 1080p, which is where this card's pretty much going to spend its entire life, then this card's faster. Pretty much most of the time. How would this fare against iGPU? No contest. At least last Intel driver fixed the fan control. Now you can finally see how much I can overclock it. Oh, they finally did that? I thought they did that way back. But see, like, either this or just this one. Realistically, if I'm going to buy an A750, I'm going to buy this one. I'm going to buy the official Intel one. I like the Intel's reference design. This one won't have all the RGB, though. This one will only have the lights on the logo will illuminate. But the light bar, that doesn't exist on this one. But this is the one that I would need to get to do like an apples to apples comparison. Because this is what people like Jay from Jay's 2 Cents, they were all worried. They were all not worried, but they were saying that like all of Intel's GPUs would be forced to compete because they came out so late when they did. They would be forced to compete with the next generation of NVIDIA and AMD cards, and that's now starting to come true, because now it has to compete with 7600, and soon it will have to compete with the 4060. So yeah, something like this. I need to get one of these next. All right, so this game runs good, but this game runs good on pretty much everything. Oh, there's some random stuff right here. You have the 380? What do you think of the 380? I kind of wanted an A380 too. I wanted it as like a encoder card. But now I might end up using this as an encoder card. No, this thing realistically, this card is gonna go into a PC that's currently using an RX 480. When I'm all done with the testing on this graphics card, the 760 or 7600, the 7600 is going to go and replace an RX 480 in a PC that has a X570 motherboard and a Ryzen 7 5800X. That's where it's going to end up permanently when all this testing's done. Because it was either that or the Intel card, and I'm like, I don't want my Intel card to be in a PC that I can't easily just swap it out so I can test it. Because the Intel card's like a rare unicorn. Whereas this thing's gonna be everywhere in like a few months. It's gonna be in all kinds of pre-builds. It's just gonna always be cheap. Oh, I'm supposed to water the roses. Oh, it has 6 gigabytes. What's the main GPU I use? It should be in the description of the stream. Is it not in there? It's in there. So if you're new to the channel, this is not the normal streaming setup. So right now, I'm streaming from what I call my test bench computer. So this computer has a 7950X3D. But my stream computer has the regular 7950X. So this is the PC that I do the benchmarking and reviews on. So that's why you guys can see it doesn't have the side panel installed. You can literally see in the camera down in the bottom left. The graphics card's literally there. Just like with the Intel card, it has that RGB light wave thing. It looks really nice. I'm not gonna lie, I chose this one because I knew it would have RGB. And it has an oversized cooler. For a 150 watt card, this thing has a cooler that's way too big. This is the equivalent of the RTX 4080 having a 4090 cooler on it. This thing has like a 7800 XT's cooler on it. Yeah, the 7900 XTX is the main. It's literally like right over there. It's like to the left of me. Because I'm using a different PC right now. Alright, let's turn this in and then we're going to swap to a different game.
Add Astro. Thank you for
So Genshin Impact runs very well. Although that's not surprising. I'm not surprised. Your setup is the Ryzen 7 3700X, 32 gigabytes memory, and the 6650 XT. Yeah, see, so the 6650 XT is actually very similar to this card in a lot of ways. The performance is almost exactly the same between these two cards. How are the temperatures? Let me check. Okay, it's 37 degrees. It's literally 37 degrees. Here, let me, where's my... Hold on. Let me share the task manager. There. Oops, you can't see it. You can see it on the, right there, 37C. This game isn't even stressing it out. 48% utilization. Let me move around in the game and keep that on screen. Let me see, is there anything that I want to get from here? We'll put MSI Afterburner on when I switch games. I need to exit out of this game first, but you can see, like, there's literally... It isn't even breaking a sweat. So, yeah. Like, that's Genshin Impact. But these are the sort of games that I expect people who buy this graphics card to play. You know, live service games, maybe some MMO, like some Korean MMO, or Final Fantasy 14, League of Legends, esports games, Counter-Strike, Source, Fortnite. You know, these are the sort of games that this graphics card will handle, like, so easily. So let's go to a different game now. Let's go to a game that's more challenging for this thing to run. Here, let me, oh no, that's Newegg. That's not Newegg, that's Micro Center. Whatever. Let's exit out of the game. Let me bring up Steam. We're gonna swap over. Let's bring up Hogwarts Legacy. A lot of people want to see Hogwarts Legacy. So I gotta fire that up. And I'm gonna bring up Afterburner as well. Oh wait, it's saying Afterburner wants to download an update. We're not gonna update that right now. I'm gonna have to fix the naming. I think is the name. That should be good. Oh, DX9 components cannot be hooked right now. It keeps on saying, do you want to update Rivatuner? No, I don't need to do that. And Hogwarts Legacy is booting up on the wrong monitor, so I'm going to have to swap that over. It's covering up the chat. I can't see you guys right now. I need to move it over. Where is oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, you guys can't see it because this is in the way. There. Alright, we gotta get past the shader compilation, and then I have to move the game over to the proper monitor. It's like on the second monitor. I can't. Oh wow, you know what? It's what happened? Why is it like? Oh, it's on the wrong monitor. Hold on. There it goes. That's weird. Okay, so what we want to do in here is we want to make this go some big number. 200, whatever. We'll just make it 200. Turn this off. Turn off VSync. I don't like motion blur, but we'll just leave it on. All this other stuff is off or on. Okay, did that save it? Okay. You just put all your old graphics cards. You have a Sapphire HD 6870. One of my cousins used to have a 6870. I don't know if he still has it. Okay, so this is Hogwarts Legacy at native resolution. No upscaling.
You're back. Nice to see
Maxed out.
What are we looking for today?
Nothing, I guess.
Thanks
You have the EVGA GTX. Man, you have all the graphics cards that relatives of mine used to have. I had a cousin who had a 6870. This is 1080p. Right there. 1080p. And it's at native. There's no FSR or anything like that. No XESS. You have the so I had a cousin that had the 6870, and then I had another cousin who had the GTX 460. I myself have a HD 7850, which is basically what the R7 370 is. The R7 370 is a rebranded 270, which was a rebranded 7850. And then I think the cousin who had the GTX 460, he had the 8800 GT before that. And then before that, he had the Radeon X850 XT. I knew a lot of people who used to have the X850 XT or the X800 Pro, and then they went to NVIDIA after that Radeon card. So basically, we're doing the exact same tests that we did when I did those videos. Let's go find some spiders. That's like the only thing I end up doing in this game is I kill like 3 spiders and then I start to a different game. Actually, here, let's, see, when you're out in the field is going to stress the GPU. You can see the GPU utilization is at 100%. That is what you want to see. That means that you're not CPU bound. If your graphics card is less than 100% utilization, that means that you're CPU bound. That's the easiest way to detect a CPU bottleneck. This should be ultra. Hold on. Wait a minute, what? Okay, upscaling's off. Oh wait, never mind. It's that. Here we go. Oh, I might have to... Do I have to restart the game? Oh no, it doesn't say that. It says the desired quality settings exceed those recommended for your hardware. You may experience lower performance as a result. Please confirm. Yes, we want to do this. To apply changes, please restart the game. I'll have to restart the game. Well, let's see if it tanks the FPS first. Let's see what it does. So we are dropping to 60. We were at like 80. Now we're at like 60. I may have to restart the game. It seems like the optimization is better on the game now compared to launch day. Maybe. I'm seeing it less than 60. What? Oh, the VRAM is different though. See how the VRAM? The VRAM is only 5 gigabytes now. It used to do... Remember, it used to use an insane amount? But the thing is, we're testing at 1080p right now. How do I do the spell? I forgot how to do... Okay, there we go. This game was unplayable on a 3070 Ti on launch day. How much VRAM was it using on launch day for 1080p? Because I remember it used a lot. But remember, guys, when I first tested this game on launch day, we were playing it at 4K. I was playing it at 4K on the 7900 XTX, and it was using like 13, 14, 15 gigabytes of VRAM or some ridiculous number. 10 to 12 with RT. Yeah, see, I expect a 6650 XT will run the game about the same as this. 3060 also should be similar to this. What's the... I forgot how to play this game.
Accio. Levioso. Lumos.
What? How do I do Revelio? I forgot. It's not Revelio. Man, I completely forgot how to play. How do I play this on PC? Or on a mouse and keyboard?
Revelio.
Okay, mouse and keyboard is R, but what is the controller? Oh, okay. So what's this?
Revelio.
Let's go back to Hogsmeade. I can see some screen tearing. I see screen tearing, and I think I know why. I think it's because my monitor, when I changed the resolution of the monitor to 1080p, I forgot to change the refresh rate back up to 144. I can see a lot of screen tearing. Yeah, I guess they have made a lot of optimizations. I know I did a video testing this game at, man, there's some weird... Do you guys see that? Look at the floor. Notice that? See how the textures on the floor are, like, going in and out of focus? Maybe I do need to restart the game. I think I need to restart the game because do you notice that? Look at the ground. Look at how the ground is going in and out of focus. It's like the textures are shifting between low to ultra. They're like constantly going between low and ultra. Yeah, I think it's because I never restarted the game. I have to restart the game. Alright, so let me restart it. Just to get an accurate result. But I think this game is it's in a much better shape than it was at launch. I mean, the last patch notes were from May 8th. So notes 1 of 4. So they have done a lot of patches actually, like this month. There's at least 4 or 5 that happened in the month of May. That's what it does instead of tanking the frames? Maybe. That's what they changed. That's how they modified the behavior. Because it used to be... Yeah, but I wasn't out of VRAM though. I was only at 5 gigabytes. This card has 8, so that shouldn't be a problem. All right. Yeah, but the thing is, when there's... That was kind of weird. It just, like, didn't show the loading bar. It just kind of looked like it was frozen, and then it just went through. I gotta be careful... Cable. I gotta be careful, because when I pull on my, the game controller, I have, like, an Xbox One controller plugged in with a USB cable to the back. But the LAN cable is broken. I broke the clip on my RJ45 Ethernet cable the other day, and I haven't bothered to fix it. So it's like it's just sitting in the socket. Like if I could just like yank on the internet cable, I could just pull it out, and then I'll get disconnected from the stream. So now let's test this again. Let's see. Oh yeah, it is still doing it. Is that what it's supposed to do? Hey, notice the memory. Notice the memory shoots up to like 5.7 gigs. And then it drops to like 4.7. Yeah, every time it drops to 4.3, it's like the textures on the ground go to low. Hold on. There's not enough VRAM. How is there not enough VRAM though? I'm sitting at like 5 gigabytes of VRAM when this card has 8. It doesn't look it does it all the time though. See, look, like right here, it's not doing it. It looks normal. The ground looks normal. It's when we get to a certain point inside the town. It's not doing it right now. Notice that it's staying at 5.5. And it's not doing it. It's still not doing it. What happened? Is it that one spot? Now it seems like it's okay. Now it seems like it's okay. You guys saw what it was. It's not doing it anymore. That's what it does instead of tanking the FPS. Yeah, we're back to Hogwarts. We're testing the 7600. Hey, it's not doing it anymore. So do I need to go into a place where it's loading in a bunch of textures? Maybe it's just texture popping? System RAM usage is still insane, though. Look at that, 14 gigabytes of RAM. 14 gigabytes of RAM are in use. If the texture doesn't fit in the VRAM, it'll just not load, so it doesn't spill a system RAM. System RAM is still at like 14 gigs. It seems like it's okay now. It's not doing it anymore. You guys saw the behavior. It would drop, like when the texture wouldn't load, it would drop to 4.7 gigs of VRAM. And then it would go back up. You play The Last of Us and it was using 20 gigabytes? We're going to see how that runs on this graphics card in a little bit. it does it less during night. Here, let's go to Hogwarts. Let's go to the school. Just pick somewhere. Doesn't really matter. No, it's not a bug. It's like a texture load thing to prevent the VRAM from getting overloaded. It's something that they changed in the game behavior from launch. It's just new behavior. It looks like, for the most part, the game uses around 5.3 on 1080p Ultra. But you're right, they probably did that. They probably did that to fix the issue for most people who have like 3060s that only have 10 gigabytes, or 3070s, or 3070 Ti's. Because like what Met was saying was at launch, it was 10 to 12 gigabytes with RT turned on. I'm assuming that was 1440p resolution. Remember that this is only 1080p resolution. For the 7950 X3D, is there any software you have to run for the CCDs? Or does it use the game bar? You don't have to do anything. You just, all you do is you just install the chipset drivers and that's it. You don't have to do anything. You can turn on game mode if you want, or I mean, yeah, you're supposed to have game bar running. You don't have to though. The Windows scheduler will figure out what to do. Because see, the thing is, for me, I'm running Windows 10. So if I'm using this processor, or if I'm using an Intel processor that has big cores and little cores, Windows 10 doesn't really care. Like, it doesn't really differentiate that well between big cores and little cores, nor does it really differentiate well between Vcache versus non-Vcache. So Game Bar is supposed to force it to schedule stuff to the correct CCD, but oftentimes it's kind of, man, this cord is way too short. Oftentimes it'll do it based off of which one's available. That's what I've found. Oh man, is this thing spraying acid at me? This is the entrance. For those that don't know, this is the way you get into the Hufflepuff house. This is the entrance to Hufflepuff. I can't get in because I'm not Hufflepuff. Your daughter's PC has 3060 12 gig and uses like 10 gigs of VRAM at Ultra. You posted an image of the VRAM usage in the Discord? Okay. Wow. But this is from launch, right? 8.8. 814 at 1080 when you have RT turned on. That was at launch though. So that means that, yeah, that behavior where they made it so that it just doesn't load the ultra texture all the way because of the VRAM. That's how they fixed it. That's how they stopped the stuttering on the lower gigabyte cards. So now I wonder, am I actually getting the Ultra experience? Because I have it set to Ultra. We are running this game at Ultra. See? Everything's Ultra, and it's only using according to this, it's only using 5.2 gigabytes of VRAM. So something changed, something definitely changed since launch in terms of the VRAM utilization. Can it detect if you have enough? It'll know. It'll know because it'll request memory pool from the driver, and it will tell it this is how much the physical hardware has that's addressable. It gave you that message, but not sure if it did anything. Well, I mean, I restarted the game. Remember, it warned me. It warned me that the performance might suffer, and then it said to apply changes, you have to restart the game. So I restarted the game. I don't know if that did anything. What happened here? Go to 1440p and see what it does. Wait, this game doesn't support exclusive full screen. I can't. Is there like a super sampling? How does this game not support full screen? That's weird. I've never seen a game that doesn't have exclusive full screen. It literally only has borderless. Windowed full screen is basically borderless full screen. How does it not have exclusive full screen? That's a thing? A game cannot have exclusive full screen? I've never heard of this before. It's a DX12 thing? Hold on, let's go. Let's try to find the, I need to make more healing items. See if I can figure out how to get to the potions place. I think it's this way. Wait, no, this doesn't look right. I don't think I've ever been over here before. Yeah, this is my first time going over here. I don't recognize this path. Where? Oh, this is the place where Snape died. The greenhouse thing, or whatever that, the cathedral, whatever that is. Well, let me check something. Oh, apparently there's a quest that's supposed to take place here. Yeah, he died here. I can't, inside. I can't, how do I go inside?
I've always said that travel.
Ah, I've never actually been here. This is a new teleporting thing. Yeah, he died like right here.
Incendio.
Oops! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! I mean, if you go by the movies, he died like more than a decade ago. So I think it was 2011. I think Snape died back in 2011. Fun fact: he died the same year Steve Jobs died. That was the year. I think that's the year that Steve Jobs died. Some people still think Steve Jobs is alive. That's what's weird. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if they were being serious or if they were joking. Like, you are aware that Steve Jobs has been dead for like over 10 years, right? Okay, well, here, let's, I don't know what to do. Let's teleport to the potion place. Is it this place? Greenhouse. Oh, they think he's still alive because they probably saw like a deep fake of him or something. I don't know. Man, it is kind of weird. Like, this world is slowly turning into like Cyberpunk 2077. You know, like with technology like deepfakes and all that kind of weird stuff. And pretty soon, like the medical industry will eventually catch up. When it does, that is when it's really gonna become like Cyberpunk 2077. Like, no joke. It is really...
Revelio.
Not Revelio. How do I... Why am I... Where's Lumos?
Lumos.
Oh. Swap your leg for a 49. Yeah, I was telling the guys at I was telling the sales guys at Micro Center, I was like, the reality is the people who buy like 4090s and stuff, they actually upgrade a lot more frequently than people who buy like the 7600. That's just the reality of it. It sounds so counterintuitive, but it's actually true. It's actually true. And they agreed with me because, you know, if you're a salesperson at Micro Center, you'll ask the customer, you know, what are they upgrading from? And they were telling me, like, the people who were buying 4090s, when they ask them, what are you upgrading from? They'll tell them they're upgrading from a 3090 or a 3080 or a 2080 Ti. Or basically some flagship from either the previous generation or the one before the previous generation. In some cases, there were people that were upgrading from a 1080 Ti. You know, those are the people that are really... They've been on the same card for a long time. But someone who is buying like a RX 7600, they're upgrading from something that's really old. You know, like 2060 or older. 1060. 480. That's the reason why I feel like the one thing that most of the reviewers did wrong in their review was they didn't show how this card compares to really old or much older graphics cards that were also priced in the same price tier when they were new.
Revelio.
Why is this like this? Oh. Trying to find the thing that will create... that can make potions. Or not potions. Where I can actually grow stuff. Where... Why am I, like, not able to find it? How much you paid for the ASRock? With tax, it was like 306 or something. It was just over 300.
Revelio.
So much for sub 300. That's the thing about US prices. US prices, you know, they'll say like, oh, it's less than $300. But if it's so close to the threshold, once you add tax, then it basically goes over 300. It's like $70 cheaper than the A770 LE. Yeah, see, that's why I kind of want to get an A750. I think the next graphics card that I'm going to get is probably going to be the A750. Because, see, the only thing is I don't know... The A750 is probably Intel's direct competitor to this card. Even though it's probably not going to perform as well. Or it doesn't perform as well. The A770 is the only Intel graphics card that can beat this card in some scenarios, especially at the higher resolutions. But at the lower resolution, like at 1080p, this card usually is going to be faster. We'll see. I'll compare them with the modern drivers from Intel. Yeah, so this game, I don't know what magic they did to fix the VRAM, but they fixed the VRAM somehow. Although I don't know, you know, like I'm kind of questioning what they did because the game looks good. I can't tell if it's true ultra though. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're gonna cap my VRAM and just not load the texture, how do I know if this is ultra textures or not? See, does that mean that if someone is playing the game with a A770 with 16 gigabytes, is it going to actually look different because it has more VRAM? I'll have to record footage and I'll have to like take side-by-side screen. I'll have to take screenshots to compare Ultra on an 8 gigabyte card versus Ultra on a 16 gigabyte card to see. Yeah, I can't change it because we're at 1080. We're like on a 1080p monitor resolution. I tried changing it earlier, but the game doesn't have full screen mode, which is really odd. See, I can't go to full screen and I can't change the resolution. It's like fixed because it's borderless windowed, and the monitor resolution is 1080. I can, but I'd have to exit out of the game and then like enable that feature in order to do that. But I don't really see the point in testing 4K though, because that's not really what this card's intended for. I would agree that I think the best description of what this card is for is basically esports at 1080p. Esports games at 1080p, like League of Legends, Fortnite, Dota 2, CSGO, Call of Duty, Battlefield, those type of games. Overwatch 2, Overwatch 1, if anyone still actually can play that. Those are the sort of games that this is for. For, you know, like for college students that they have a summer job or they didn't have a summer job and they want to be able to play like esports games or whatever. StarCraft 2, that kind of stuff. That's what this is for. It's a 6650 XT with some... Yeah, it is actually very similar to a 6650 XT. Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. It definitely uses less power though. Like, you guys can see. Oh, hold on. That's actually not showing us the power consumption. That's actually the Ryzen 7950X power consumption. The CPU is only using like 57 watts. All right, let me find the GPU power if it's in here. The thing is, this graphics card is so new that Afterburner might not be able to show the GPU power. Because it doesn't know how to read it because it's too new. Yeah, I don't see the toggle for it in Afterburner. So unfortunately I can't show the power consumption of the card. I can get it from GPU Z. Okay, GPU Z also doesn't fully support this card yet, but it does read the info. Yeah, so GPU Z is saying 160 watts, 161, 162. So yeah. I mean, it's in line with what the reviewers were showing in their results. So, oh look, it's finally daybreak. The students are showing up.
Revelio.
Why do I keep pressing that? I want to press, where's Lumos?
Revelio. Lumos.
Oh. Where is that? Oh, it's over there. Yeah, this game has that same kind of the feeling of exploration in Hogwarts Legacy is just as good as Dark Souls and Elden Ring. It's one of those games where you can just get so distracted just doing random things in this game world. Just like the Legend of Zelda games, and I think that's what makes this game good. It has an addictive feedback loop. This one, the Zelda game, and what's the other game that I'm thinking of that I'm forgetting? Resident Evil, the new Resident Evil game. In terms of contenders for Game of the Year, it's going to be between this, the new Zelda game, and Resident Evil, the Resident Evil 4 remake. Those are the only three really good games. Those are the three good games that came out this year that had the least amount of problems and are actually really good games. Can you check the VRAM on System Honor to see if Afterburner is not... Yeah. So, well, I can tell you what it says in GPU Z. GPU Z... Hold on. GPU Z says 6,000. It's like 1,000 more than that. GPU Z says 6,426. That says 5,451. So, maybe... there is something going on. In Task Manager, it says... Oh, for VRAM? VRAM in Task Manager says 7.3. It says 7.3 dedicated. So I don't know what that means. 7.3 out of 8 dedicated in Task Manager. So, but the thing is, Afterburner is reporting the memory utilization based off of the game itself from the process. So, no, I kind of think this is correct. I think the VRAM shown in Task Manager is applying to everything, like the entire system. Although, I don't really know what else is using a lot of VRAM besides this game. That's all I get. I mean, the only other thing that's running is Discord's running, OBS is running, Chrome is running with the chat in front of me. There's some other tabs. The browser that I shared, the Micro Center and the Newegg stuff, that's also running. But I don't really think that's going to use a lot of VRAM, though. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So I guess Windows is taking that other, like, 1 gigabyte or so of VRAM. Maybe that's what's going on. So yeah, I guess it is running close to the max.
Well, I don't think it's clever at all. It's a relief to finally have an answer as to why that portrait was empty.
You know, one thing I wish they would have added to this game, because they did all the optimization patches, I wish they would have added the ability for you to zoom the camera further away from your character. Like, I wish the character could be further away from me so I would have a better field of view. That's the only thing. 4K monitor? Oh, Windows 11. Oh, so with Windows 11, you're running about 1 gigabyte. So this is Windows 10, but I can't imagine it being that different. You know, I've been tempted recently to upgrade to Windows 11. I've been strongly considering upgrading to Windows 11, but I still haven't done it. Because if I upgrade one PC to Windows 11, then I'm going to want to upgrade all the PCs to Windows 11. And I don't know if that's a good idea. I've been on the fence about upgrading to Windows 11 for a while. And over time, I feel like I'm moving closer and closer to actually doing it. Your test bench is Windows 11, you haven't had any issues with it? I've been thinking about doing it. In fact, I almost did it last week. Like, after last week's live stream, I was sitting there thinking about, should I... Because Windows was telling me... Like, that whole stream, Windows kept popping up, telling me to restart, to install an update. And I kept saying postpone, postpone, remind me later, postpone. And it still kept on warning me that it wanted to restart the computer. So then I was sitting there thinking, like... Should I upgrade this thing to Windows 11 if I'm going to go ahead and update this thing in the first place? Windows 11 works alright. Oh, yeah. I know. You have to click on more options or something. You right-click and you click more options just to see the properties window or the properties option. Yeah. Does it show, like, the graphics controls panel when you right-click? Or do you have to click on more options to see your Radeon settings or your NVIDIA control panel? Because that would drive me nuts if you had to keep clicking more options. I like that it has File Explorer tabs. Because, see, the reason why I've been thinking about upgrading to Windows 11 is because my computer that I use for work, they recently forced every employee to upgrade to Windows 11. It was like a company-wide mandate. Like, everyone has to be on Windows 7 by the end of April. So I had until the end of last month to finally upgrade to Windows 11, and I put it off until the last day. And then I finally did it. So my work computer is now Windows 11. And it just kind of irks me when I have, you know, like, you use Windows 11 every day for work. And then when you're not working, like on the PC for YouTube, the 7950X computer, that's Windows 10. And then now this test bench computer that we're streaming on right now, this one's also Windows 10. So it's like I have Windows 11, Windows 10, and Windows 10. It's like, I don't like when they're split on multiple OSs like that. It's just kind of annoying. You can fix the right-click thing, restore the Windows 10 one. I think they were trying to streamline some of the things that they think are the most commonly used options. I don't know.
It's a relief to finally have an answer as to why that portrait was empty.
Yeah, let me see if I can... What other options can I add in Afterburner here? Because I can see the RPM. The fan speed is... It's only spinning at like 1100 RPM. That is really quiet. The last time I had a graphics card that only spins at 1100 RPM while gaming with the FPS uncapped was the old R9 Fury from back in the day. This thing is insanely quiet. It's been a long time since I've used such a low-power GPU, though. Oh, wait. GPU fan tachometer. Am I GPU 1 or GPU 2? Where is this? Okay, it's this one. There, now you guys can see the fan. I can't show the power consumption though. I don't see the toggle for that. Yeah, I can't see. Oh wait, hold on. That's GPU. No, that's GPU 2. GPU 2 is the integrated Radeon on the Ryzen APU. That I can't. So I can't show. For some reason, I can't show the power consumption because the GPU's 2 new. The hooks for it are not implemented in this version of Afterburner. Oh wait a minute. Hold on. GPU. No, it doesn't have it. Oh well. I'm actually using a really old version of Afterburner. I never upgrade my Afterburner. Like, my Afterburner is version 4.6.5 beta 4. So, whenever that was. Like, that was a while back. So, well, so let's change to a different game. So, I want to spend about the same amount of time per game. So, that's going to be this one. This one runs pretty good. Okay. So let's switch over to The Last of Us. Let's do that one next. Try a what? We have an FPS monitor. The FPS monitor is an Afterburner. Use FPS monitor? Why do I need to do that when I already have this one? Okay, now we gotta, because we're using a new card, so it changed all the settings. At least this one booted up on the correct monitor. How do I, where's the, you know what? I think this is gonna max out the VRAM. I have a feeling this is gonna max the VRAM. Is there like a preset? Ultra, ultra, ultra. Is there like a graphics preset? Just do ultra. Apply. Go. Warning! Insufficient VRAM for the chosen settings. This may impact performance. Do you want to continue? Yes. Just do it. Look right there. There you go. Look at, check it out. Check it out. 9.8. So I guess that guy that was in front of me in the line, in the checkout line at Micro Center, when he was like, he was telling me, is that thing gonna have enough VRAM for modern games? I was like, yeah, you know, if it's 1080p. Well, here we go. This is 1080p, and we're now at 120% VRAM usage. Why does Afterburner still say 5.5? This game makes 8 GB GPU owners nervous. The last of you. Okay, we're already maxed out. So let's see how it runs. Let's see what it does. Oh, here we go. Shaders are currently building. Starting the game before shaders finish building may result in degraded performance. It is strongly recommended to wait until this process completes. So we're at, whatever, okay. So if I just continue, what happens? Just continue, see what happens. It's trying to load in. It's thinking about it. Oh man, this is a first-hand lesson. First-hand lesson why Hardware Unboxed and everybody was complaining about 8 gigabytes not being enough. and the sad thing, I was one of the first people to warn people about this. I kept on telling people that cards like 3070 and 3070 Ti are going to be garbage in like a year. And here we are. 8 gigabyte cards. You get the warning message on like every game now. Yeah, the shaders are compiling, so it's thinking about it. You guys can't see it. It's like because I'm covering it. Oh, there we go. All right, remember the shaders are still compiling because if I go in here, you guys can't see it. I gotta move myself up so you guys can see, and I'm gonna move the chat up too. Building shaders, main story, 29%, left behind 2%. I don't know what left behind means. Why do you think I got rid of the... This is an example of me not listening to my own advice. I kept telling people, you should be buying cards that have, like, at least 12 gigabytes of VRAM. And I remember, I was saying this last year. I was saying this before games like Last of Us, Hogwarts, Forspoken, Dead Space 3, etc., Jedi Survivor. And now, this is the result. Okay, I don't know why it keeps saying 5.5. That's really weird. So I'm looking at GPU-Z right now. GPU-Z is saying 7,468 for the dedicated memory used. Memory controller load is 29%. Memory used dynamic is 4.6 gigabytes. Power consumption is 161 watts. 160 watts. Yeah. Well, the GPU is not being bottlenecked by the CPU because you can see it's at 99%, 100% utilization. And this game is stressing it more than Hogwarts because you can see the fan is now at like 1300 RPM instead of 1100 RPM. All right, let's just kind of, how do I forgot the buttons. How do I run? Oh, it's different. Yeah, it's stuttering because it's building the shaders. I can't tell if it's stuttering because it's building the shaders or if it's stuttering because it's out of memory. But you can see the stutters. You can see all the spikes on the graph. All those lag spikes. Those big ones. All right, is it done? No, it's 57%. Yeah, it's... Let's go outside, I guess. You can see, like, every... It looks like an EKG or something. Like, you can see, like, it's like a heartbeat going on. It's got, like, an irregular heartbeat every now and then. You'll see those little spikes. Now, those little, like, whatever that is, like, 18 millisecond. Yeah, the 18 millisecond is the little spike. But it's normally, like, 13. I can see it 13 to 19. When it goes to, like, 18, 19... millisecond, those are the little spikes. But the thing is, those 18 millisecond spikes, I don't feel those. It's those big ones that I can feel, like the ones that are like 30. You might want to check the max value under memory usage in the monitoring tab. There you go. Is that it? There 7.5. 7.5. And the process utilization is 5.6. Okay, because that number is what GPU-Z is showing. What I don't understand about GPU-Z, so GPU-Z, the 7,500 number is the dedicated number. GPU-Z also has another one called memory used dynamic. That one is 4.8. Oh man, it's gonna be really interesting testing this game on a GTX 970 and an RX 480. Because the thing is, so the RX 480, the one that I have, has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, just like this card, but it's so much older and so much slower that I wonder if it's going to actually max the VRAM or if it's just gonna crawl at running this game. And the GTX 970 only has 3.5 plus 512. So I don't even know what that card's gonna do. I have no idea how the 970 is gonna handle this game. It's gonna get maxed out. Is this the shader's done? 88%. Wait, how come I only have... Man, I have like no ammo. How do I have literally no ammo? Wait, how am I not able to... Okay. The 480 is gonna struggle, but I don't... Like, what's the 970 gonna do? That only has like 4. It's got like half the VRAM. Well, that was a bad lag spike. That was a bad lag spike. I felt that one. It's got 3.5 plus 512. Yeah, it's 3.5 plus 512. Alright, is there like a way for me to... Is there like a slide? How does he turn off his light? Oh, okay, that's how. This game is where 8 gigabyte cards go to die. Hold on, let me see something. How do I... If I play with keyboard and mouse, what's the button to turn on the flashlight? T? Okay. Alright, is it done compiling? It's almost done, though. 93%. It doesn't have like a jump button. Or there's no prone button. For some reason, when I play this game, I keep thinking of PUBG. This game reminds me of PUBG. Which is another game that this GPU can run without any issues. Like all those esports games from like, that have been around forever. PUBG's like 2017, I think. Yeah, 2017. So yeah, that game won't have a problem with this card, or this card won't have a problem with that game. It's these new games. Yeah, it's wow. You know, because I was thinking that. Remember when I said yesterday that the target resolution for games now is 4K? I didn't think that 1080p would be that demanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, play some esports. I mean, I could, but what's the point, though? Like, we already know that it's not gonna have any problems with that. It's only gonna have problems with this. With these type of games. Oh, man. Okay. I think I understand now. I think this is proof to me why nobody went to go get this card, nor did they go to get the 4060 Ti yesterday. Because of this sort of behavior. Wow. If you want to play on Ultra. Okay, hold on. Let's see if we can fix this. Let's see if we can salvage this. Let's see if this is salvageable. Like, because the people at Digital Foundry was saying, like, it's easy. All you gotta do is play the game on like high. so let's drop this to high. Okay, look. High only needs 7.9 gigabytes of VRAM. 7.9. For high settings, guys. I think we're good. Does that fix it? It Feels, yeah, it's definitely smoother. Yeah, you can see like we're at 60 now. We're literally at 60 on high. On high settings, we're doing 60. Use FSR. Use FSR. Now we're really starting to compromise. Where do you even go to turn that on? I don't even remember where to turn that on. Wait, RT was on the whole time? RT's been on the whole time? I didn't even realize ray tracing was on. We've been running this game with... Hold on a second. Wait. RT's on. If I turn it off... Does that do anything? Reflections are not the same. Okay, it doesn't change the VRAM. I just want to know if it actually improves the frame rate. Because we're literally at 60. Okay, here's the water. Because that setting would affect the water. See? In the picture, it changes the lighting to the water. It's like the light bouncing off of the water, the shadow reflection. Oh, this is not RT. What am I talking about? This is real-time reflections. This is not ray traced reflections. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Well, I was just wondering if it would affect the FPS. It doesn't seem like it does anything. Yeah, it still just kind of like sits at 60 the whole time. Delete Ellie from the game to gain 15 FPS. That's cloud shadow maps. Is ray tracing on? I can't even... I don't think... This game doesn't have RT, does it? I don't even remember. Hold on. Where do I display? VSync is on. Wait a minute. VSync is on? There we go. Oh, VSync was on the whole time. So it couldn't go above 60 FPS. Because I forgot that the monitor, when I changed this GPU, because Windows doesn't know what this GPU is, it set the monitor refresh to 60 Hertz. Oh. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. Frame cap, whatever, 200. I don't think this is going to go to 200, but we'll just do it 200, whatever. So you guys can see, it's doing like 67 now. Now it's more realistic. Okay, now I want to turn back on Ultra. Are we done? Oh, we finished all the compiling shaders. So now I want to turn this back on Ultra. It's gonna warn me. I don't care. Now we've exceeded it. Oh yeah, look, check this out. Check this out. Oh yeah. 50 FPS in all its glory. It does look better though. This definitely does. The water, the reflections, the lighting on the water does look better at Ultra. I immediately noticed it looks better. But it does, I lose like 10 FPS. Bumping it up to Ultra. And we're constantly like maxed on the VRAM. So what I'm thinking, like, okay, the RAM says 12.8 gigs of system RAM. You know what's funny? Tech Power Up says I'm using 26 gigabytes of system RAM. So let me see if I can show that in Afterburner. Because I'm using 26 gigabytes of RAM right now. There. Now you guys can see like the full system RAM. So I guess the game is using 13 gigabytes of RAM, and the rest of the system is using 26 gigabytes of RAM. I don't know why my PC is using 26 gig. Like, I don't know what that extra 13 gigabytes of RAM is, but apparently we're using 26 gigabytes of VRAM. So, but the game itself is using 13 of system RAM. Oh, I didn't want to do that. How does it, like, keep on messing this up? Wait, how do I, oh. Yeah, this is, so it looks good on Ultra. It really does look good on Ultra, but you can't really run it. So I don't know, is it running at 50 something because we're maxed on VRAM, or is it running at 657 because it's just Ultra? So we go down to high. Man, that is surprising. Because I was saying that this card is a 1080p graphics card, but I was not expecting 1080p to soak up all the VRAM just like that. I thought that I would have some kind of headroom on an 8GB graphics card at 1080p. I feel like I've been proven wrong. I feel like I've been proven wrong. If you had 16 gigabytes of system RAM, yeah, you're right, yeah. Notice something though. When we went to high, notice the system memory dropped to 10.7 gigabytes. When we were at Ultra, let's go back to Ultra. Look at that. Ultra loads the system RAM to close to 13 gigabytes of system RAM. Just dropping it to high shaves off like 2 to 3 gigabytes of system RAM. So that means that it is overloading. It is spilling over into the system RAM because there's not enough VRAM. So this is a prime example of what happens. Man, if only Ray was watching the stream right now, because Ray had a question about this, like, what happens when you run out of VRAM? Well, this is what happens. This is like a first-hand demonstration of what happens when you run out of VRAM. Like, this is literally what happens. So, see, system RAM went back down. And notice the VRAM, the total VRAM went down to 7.2 now. And the game is a lot smoother. The game is definitely a lot smoother. Well, it's also because it's above 60 FPS. How do I thought I'm pressing 2. Why am I, like... How do I not know how to control these controls? Like, I'm pressing 2 and he doesn't switch over to his other... How come I can't switch over to the other gun? I can't switch over to the pistol. Like, what? I don't understand this game's controls anymore. I forgot. 1 does that, but 2 doesn't do that? Oh, 3 is the gun? 3 is the gun. 2 is the healing. Okay. You knew a guy who had 8 gigs of system RAM and a 1063 gig? A lot of people had PCs like that like 6 years ago. Like, that was kind of a normal thing back then. But see, the thing is, that guy is the type of person who I would think would upgrade to this type of graphics card. They'd go from a 3 gigabyte graphics card to an 8 gigabyte graphics card. And 8 gigabytes of system RAM to 16 gigabytes of system RAM. The only problem is that doesn't seem like that's a viable upgrade anymore. It's almost like people who have waited that long, they would have to basically skip 16 gigabytes of system RAM. They have to go straight to 32, and they would have to go from a 3 gigabyte graphics card up to like a 12 gigabyte graphics card. It's really weird because the smartphone, like Android smartphones, I was thinking about smartphones the other day after I was talking about this on stream. Like smartphones today, what's the most? How much RAM does like the latest iPhone have? Because I think for Android, typically phones today have 12 gigabytes of RAM, if I'm not mistaken. I think 12 is the standard. Some now have 16, but I think for the most part, most of them are 12 gigabytes of VRAM on a smartphone. So it's like a desktop or a laptop should definitely have more than what a smartphone typically has. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has 6. Yeah, Apple and their gimpy hardware. But the only thing is, like, Apple just knows what their software needs. That's the only thing. Yeah, I agree. Cypher. It's way more optimized. It's just mind-boggling that in 2023, the latest iPhone only has 6 gigabytes of VRAM. My smartphone, the OnePlus 5 from 2017, has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. 8 gigabytes of system RAM. I like how Cole's expression is just like, huh? It's like he's holding up the computer case. Look at that. Cole's holding up the computer case. He's like, what is this? What is this thing with only 8 gigs? Why is that saying it's 7.2? Qualcomm seems to want to close the gap. No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just talking about RAM in general. Like smartphones today typically have 12 gigabytes of RAM, so a desktop should have more than 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM. The RGB amazed him. that's like the one saving grace of this graphics card at this point. At this point, the thing that makes this graphics card good is the 1200 RPM at max. It's only running at 59 Celsius, so it's running really cool. It's running really cool. I can't hear it. It's completely silent. The only problem is the VRAM. But man, if this thing had like 10 or 12, man, if it had 10 or 12, you know, I was skeptical about like what Steve from Harbor Unboxed was saying about like cards in 2023, even 1080p should have 12. I did not agree with him. I was in the same camp as Wizard from Tech Power Up in saying that 8 gigs is enough for 1080p. Well, okay, I completely retract that statement 100% now after experiencing this, because I was not expecting this. Your phone only has 8? Yeah. Most phones, if you have a phone from the last like 4 years, typically it only has 8. But new phones today, like modern flagship phones, like the Sony Xperia, the latest Samsung S23 or 22 or whatever, like all those phones, those phones have like 12 gigabytes. I think in some cases you can get them with 16. But those are like really expensive. Samsung A42 has 4. How old is that phone? See, my phone's actually really old by today's standards. Like, I'm stuck on Android 10. I can't go to Android 11 or any of the newer ones because my phone's considered end of support. Because it's funny, we were talking about end of support on graphics cards yesterday, and now it's like the same thing. Like, I technically have to get a new phone this year because my phone is so old that it doesn't support, like, I can't upgrade it anymore. It's basically Left 4 Dead. It's Left 4 Dead. It's The Last of Us. You have a OnePlus 7. See, I have a OnePlus 5. And back in 2017 when I got it, that phone was like really high end because it had 8 gigabytes of system RAM and it had 128 gigabytes of internal storage and it had the 3.5 millimeter phone jack. What's a good phone that still has a 3.5 millimeter phone jack or like headphone jack? Like, do any phones still have that? I think the Sonys still do. I think I might get a Sony phone because of that, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a new phone this year. I'm gonna have to do like an unboxing or whatever on it when I get one. I don't know, but it has to have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Like that's a must have. And then like it's got to have. I don't really care if it has 256 or 512 gigs of internal storage. Ideally, that to me doesn't matter. If it has like a micro SD card, that would be really nice. I might end up getting a Sony Xperia because I know Sony still has the 3.5 millimeter because they want you to use like their fancy headphones and stuff. The problem with the Asus, didn't the Asus phone have a problem with the camera though? I keep hearing, every time I look at like Asus ROG phones, I always read up on like people complaining about the camera app crashing or not working correctly, or the autofocus is like really bad. Or something like that. People usually like everything I've read about ROG phones is that either the battery burns down really fast while you're gaming on the phone, or it's like heating up too much, or the camera app is just trash. That's what I've heard about Asus phones. So I don't know if I'm gonna get an Asus phone. Does the Asus phone have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack though? If it does, then I'll consider it. If it doesn't, it's not even gonna be on the list. Man, I'm kind of disappointed about this though. Like this, The Last of Us is really killing my enthusiasm for these entry-level graphics cards. They do? Okay. So it's probably going to be between Asus and Sony then. The only how much are the Asus phones? Aren't they really expensive? Cuz I don't want to spend like the amount of money. I don't want to spend like 7900 XTX or RTX 4090 or 4080 levels of money on a smartphone. But I want a phone that's like decently good. If it's like over $1,000, then I don't know. You can tell I'm not a phone enthusiast because like if I was a phone enthusiast, then I would consider those phones or considering that kind of money on a phone. But it's like I don't know. It's like I just spent like about $300 with tax on a 7600. Now I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to get like a more budget phone because of that. Any flagship is gonna be over 1,000. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna have to find one. I might have to find like an older phone then, like maybe not one that came out this year, but one that came out last year that's on clearance. I'll have to find an older, not a super old phone, but like a phone that either came out in 2022 or 2021, because typically those will be heavily discounted. Basically like someone buying like a 6700 or a 6700 XT instead of buying one of these. Like I'll have to do something like that. I'll have to buy like the previous generation to save money and get something that's comparable or actually slightly better. New iPhones are 1 point. That's too much. That's crazy. Yeah. What year did the very first? Because wasn't it iPhone? Apple was the first to launch a $1,000 phone. Remember? Wasn't it the iPhone X or the iPhone 10? I don't remember if it was called iPhone 10 or iPhone X. Yeah, that you have a good point there. Because I got like what 6 years out of my phone. And technically, I could keep using it. It's just I haven't been able to update. There's so many security vulnerabilities on Android 10 and I haven't been able to patch any of them because OnePlus basically like killed off support for my phone a long time ago. So, and I probably should upgrade because the battery in my phone is kind of old now. It still gets decent battery life considering it's 6 years old. Like I can last almost the whole day without charging the battery. And it's like I think it's like a 3.5 or 3.3 milliamp hour battery. Samsung with the Note 8 launched the first 1,000. Really? I thought it was the iPhone X. the first iPhone Max model was the first one. I thought, wasn't it iPhone X or iPhone 10? I think that was the one that was $9.99. And that might have actually been in 2017. Because it might have been the year that I got the OnePlus 5. I can't remember. I told this story. I don't know. I might bore some people with this exact same story. I won't tell you the whole story. But basically, like, the reason why I got the OnePlus 5 was because I was going to go live and work in Japan for a while. And I ended up doing it in 2018. But back in 2017, I needed a phone. I wanted to get a phone that could roam onto Docomo or SoftBank, which are two of Japan's, like, for those that don't know, Docomo and SoftBank are really two, they're basically like Verizon and AT&T if you're in the US. They're like the equivalent of Verizon and AT&T, but they're in Japan. So when I was going to go live in Japan, I was like, I don't want to buy a local SIM card. And at the time, I had a Samsung Galaxy S5 that I had been using since 2014. And I really didn't want to get rid of the Galaxy S5 because the S5 was the last Samsung Galaxy that had a removable battery and it had a micro SD card expansion slot, and it had the 3.5 millimeter jack. So like I wanted to hold onto that S5 forever, but then I was like, okay, it's on Verizon, and Verizon, you know how Verizon is. Anyone who's a smartphone enthusiast knows that like Verizon and Sprint, if you want to be an early adopter for any super high-end enthusiast phone, you usually have to buy the unlocked international edition, and those only work on T-Mobile or AT&T. Like, they usually are GSM, so they don't work on Verizon or Sprint in the US. So, and I was on Verizon, so I was like, well, my phone's not going to work in Japan, so I'm going to have to get a new one because I can't roam. And it's like, I don't want to buy a local SIM. And the S5 that I had didn't have the correct antenna band, so it wouldn't work anyway. Like, I'd be stuck at like 2G speed or some really bad, like sub 3G speed. It was really bad. So how this conversation get to phones? Because we were talking about VRAM, then that turned into system RAM, and then I started talking about the difference between RAM in phones versus the RAM in PCs. But so I ended up getting the OnePlus 5 because it could work with T-Mobile, and T-Mobile, I don't think a lot of people know this, but T-Mobile, I don't know if the policies have changed for like AT&T, but if you're on T-Mobile and if you leave North America and you go into like a foreign country, there's like a super long list. Back then it was like 140 countries. You could literally roam onto the networks of 140 different countries, and you had unlimited roaming data. You didn't have to worry about foreign roaming charges and all that kind of stuff. So it's like all I had to do was switch from Verizon to T-Mobile, and I could literally go to Japan and I could roam for free on their network. And now the caveat was, like, T-Mobile said that you get unlimited 3G speed. However, they don't police it. So in some parts of the city, I could roam and get like full 4G speed on a foreign, like, Docomo network, and it was like being in the US. Like, I would get the same speed, everything's working, Google Maps is going fast. So it was like it was such a seamless transition. So so ever since I've been on T-Mobile, so it's like if I'm gonna get a new phone, I don't have a problem getting like an international unlocked phone, but I don't recommend that anybody do that unless they are gonna travel abroad or something, like, if that makes sense. So that's why it's like, yeah, if you're someone who wants to travel outside of North America, because I know Canada, I think, uses similar radio frequencies, and I think Mexico might also be on the same band, the same frequency band for the 5G, the 4G, and etc. But like, if you want to leave North America and go to like a European country or South America, I think South America also has the same GSM, like Brazil. Or if you go to like Asia, like, as long as you have AT&T or T-Mobile, Especially if you have T-Mobile, you don't have to do anything. Like, you literally don't have to do anything. Now, if you have AT&T, I think you have to buy, like, you have to pay, like, $30 or something for, like, an international roaming plan. But for the most part, you don't have to buy, like, a local SIM card or something. I just know if someone's on Verizon or Sprint, it's terrible. Like, there's so much stuff that you have to do. You have to buy, like, a local SIM card, and you have to hope that your phone is compatible with the antennas for the local countries, like millimeter waves, assuming they even have millimeter waves and CDMA and all that stuff. So it's not fun. I mean, I was on Verizon for a very long time, but I basically switched because of that, and I don't really see the need to go back. I mean, I think in the US, Verizon has the fastest mobile network. I mean, I was under that impression, which is the reason why I had been on it for so long. Or it has the best coverage in the major cities, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe someone who's more into phones would be able to educate me on that, but yeah. Okay, well, this game on high looks good. It obviously doesn't look as good as Ultra, but let's see what we can do here. Let's turn on, like, FSR. Where is FSR? Oh, there it is. Okay. Now the rendered resolution is 720p. Honestly, this doesn't look that bad. This doesn't really look that different from native. Let's look at the leaves. So this is FSR for 1080p, which means that we're rendering 720p and upscaling. I don't know, this game, the FPS is definitely a lot better. We've gained like 10 FPS just from turning FSR on. I don't really see the VRAM. Here, let's try, let's leave FSR on. Now let's go back to Ultra. You know what? It didn't warn me. We're exceeding the VRAM, but it didn't warn. It didn't give me the warning. I guess if it goes above 120%, because right now it's in yellow. We're at 116%. We're 16% over our VRAM, our 8 GB limit, and it didn't warn me. This is an interesting experience for me because I'm someone who you guys know, like I typically use a 7900 XTX, and even before I was using that, I was using like a 3090 Ti, which also had 24 gigabytes, and then before that I was using a 6900, and the 6900 had 16. So I haven't been VRAM limited in a long time. So this is like a new experience for me. This is a learning experience for me. Like learning what it's like what it feels like to have to worry about VRAM. The ROG 7 looks good. You gave up on the warnings? Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about the Sony though? Like the Sony phone? How does that compare to the ROG? Look at the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 4 or Mark 5 or something. I forgot what the name is. But I think like the Sony and the ROG, like Xperia and ROG are like the true, like if someone wants to play games on their phone, the two phones that I always hear people mention, one is the ROG and the other one is the Xperia. Those are the two like high-end enthusiast Android phones. Those are the ones that everybody always mentions. And which is weird because I always thought Samsung and OnePlus were like the two big ones. I guess Sony software support isn't super long. See, I always thought Asus support was the one that was like 2 years, and then they come out with a new like Zen phone or something. Because as far as I know, like the Sony phones that are like 3 or 4 years old, they can still upgrade all the way up to Android 13. So, because I don't know about how that compares to OnePlus. At first, I wanted to get another OnePlus phone, but what killed OnePlus for me is they don't have any phone that has a 3.5 millimeter jack. So that was like, okay, well, you guys aren't in consideration this time around. And Samsung has the same problem, because I don't want to buy the little adapter thing that takes USB-C and converts it to the... I don't want to have to carry one of those around. That's too much work. I'm not going to do that. So I want the 3.5 millimeter native on the phone. You know, it didn't warn me about the VRAM, but we are technically exceeding the 8 gigabytes, and I'm not really noticing much stuttering. So I guess the takeaway is, if you have FSR turned on and you go over, as long as it's not 120, I think it's because the rendered resolution, I guess, is using less. It's just crazy to me that 720p rendered resolution can use 9.4 gigabytes of VRAM. Yeah, that USB-C. I don't want to have to carry around a little adapter. That, to me, that's annoying. I just want to be able to plug in the... Just leave it plugged in the headphones. Well, the thing is, I would use it with more than the headphones. That's why, like... I don't want to have to buy, like, multiple different dongles and leave them plugged into different things. So that's why it's like, I'd rather just, you know, have the 3.5 millimeter jack. So I guess Asus is one that I'll have to look into. The other one's going to be Sony, because I know Sony has the 3.5. Because Sony has so many good headphones. That's the reason why they wouldn't get rid of it. Despite, like, Bluetooth and wireless earbuds, although they do have that too. Alright, so this game taught me a lesson. I learned a hard lesson about VRAM usage. So let's drop that to high. Actually, let's keep going. Let's drop this down to medium. Wait, medium needs to restart. Okay, never mind. Let's go to high, and then let's... I feel like the best experience on this card is high with FSR turned on. Like, FSR, because we're upscaling to 1080p from 720p, it doesn't look that bad. And I feel like this is a similar scenario that the PS4 and the PS4 Pro ran into a lot. In fact, I think the FSR implementation on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 is very similar to this, where in some cases they're rendering 720p and they're upscaling it all the way to like 4K, which is basically FSR2 performance mode or something like that. I forget. This one definitely feels, to me, like just playing the game like this with FSR and like just being able to move around. It feels solid. It feels responsive, like with FSR, and which is not really saying a whole lot. So we turn it off. Yeah, it only has that. So let's turn it off. What happened? Why is it like 20 something FPS? Oh, it has to readjust. Okay, so this, yeah, I guess high seems still decent. Yeah, okay, so high, I guess you're stuck playing the game on high. Alright, so this game disappointed me. It taught me a lesson about VRAM. Alright, so that's this one. Let's try a different game. Let's try Horizon Zero Dawn. We're not going to play too much Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm going to test that, and then we're going to test Jedi Survivor, or Jedi, yeah, Survivor. Oh, not The Last of Us. Where is it? Oh, this one actually lets you go using the super sampling. We'll just do 1080p, FPS, unlimited. Whoa, 600 something. Oh, that's because we're in the menu. Ultra, everything ultra. I couldn't tell if you were being serious, software. I couldn't tell if that was a serious question or not. like no joke. I thought you were making a joke or something. I don't know. All right, so this. Now here's a game that I think is going to be an interesting one to test with the older cards and the newer card, because this graphics card is meant for mobile. Because this graphics card is only an X8 electrically. Now the thing is, yeah, this is an X8 graphics card. Because when I check GPU-Z says that the bus interface is on PCIe X8 4.0. So it's Gen 4 X8. So it only has 8 lanes electrically versus 16 on like your typical graphics card for desktop. Which means probably most of these GPUs are going to go in laptops, if I had to guess. Same thing applies to the RTX 4060. I don't know about the 4060 Ti. The 4060, typically you don't see Ti GPUs in laptops, although the 4060 Ti is an X8 GPU electrically, so it is also an X8, yeah. Whoa, can I like dive down? Man, the water in this game does not look anywhere near as good as it does in the sequel. Horizon Forbidden West, the water looks so much more realistic compared to this game. Like, it's insane. But like this game though does have a very well optimized engine. I do like the Decima engine. I think it achieves pretty good visuals, and it also runs pretty well. Like, it doesn't have like issues and stutters and stuff like that when the game came out. But this game in particular does scale a lot with PCIe bandwidth. So if you have X8 versus X16, there is a noticeable difference. And if you also have Gen 4 versus Gen 3 versus Gen 2, etc., it does make a noticeable difference in this particular game. Meaning the Decima engine does prefer wider, or it prefers as many lanes of PCIe that you can give it. And it also scales with PCIe bandwidth. So ideally, you want 4.0 for the PCIe generation for this game. And you also want 16 lanes. Now, if you have PCIe 3.0, you're definitely going to want 16 lanes. So that leads me to another point that I wanted to make when it came to like talking about who should buy this the 7600, because the 7600, you know, it being sub $300, you would think that someone who has an older graphics card, like an RX 480 or a GTX 1060, they would consider this GPU. Now, the caveat there is if they haven't upgraded their graphics card in so long, there's a good chance that their entire platform, their motherboard, their CPU, the motherboard in particular, probably doesn't support PCIe Gen 4, which means that they're stuck on PCIe Gen 3. And if they get this graphics card, they would only get PCIe 3.0 x8, which is going to be noticeably slower in this game. I know in this game for a fact, and I will test that. I will verify that. Oh, I failed that jump. Like what I can do is I can simulate that by going into the BIOS, and I can drop the generation. I can force the motherboard to negotiate PCIe Gen 3, so that this would then be Gen 3 8 lanes. So we can see how that goes. Probably not a super great value to buy 7600 until it starts getting sales. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like it's really weird, you know, like this applies to both the 7600 and the RTX 4060 Ti, and it will also apply to the RTX 4060 when that card comes out. I feel like, if anything, these new cards from Team Red and Team Green are actually going to help accelerate the sales and the clearing out of the previous generation. When you put it like that, it's almost like, why did AMD and Nvidia wait so long to launch these cards? Because remember what I said in previous live streams. I said the reason why they held back launching these products was because they wanted to sell enough of the previous generation where they felt safe to have the new card and the old cards coexist at the same price level. But I feel like if they launched these cards earlier, they probably would have just sold their older cards even faster. So, I don't know. Maybe they didn't expect the public and the tech outlets, the news, like the media, the big YouTubers and all the, you know, website publications, the testers basically, to have such negative perceptions of these products. Like, all the reviews are relatively lukewarm at best. I feel like the reviews for the 7600 were better than the 4060 Ti. 4060 Ti's reviews were really bad. But that's because that card, you know, like 8 gigabytes of VRAM, $400. Now I'm a firm believer that those two should not be in the same sentence. $400 plus 8 gigabytes VRAM does not compute. Like, that is not acceptable. Now after this experience with The Last of Us on an 8 gigabyte graphics card, now I'm a firm believer that the 4060 Ti is definitely dead on arrival, because no one in their right mind would spend that much money for an 8 gigabyte graphics card, brand new, at this point. Like, you want to buy, so yeah. And this card barely scrapes by, because it's just cheap enough to still justify it for some cases, for some entry-level gaming and that sort of thing. It's just, it feels like you're kind of hindering the capability in the long term, right? Because the newer games, you're going to have to compromise on textures, you're going to have to run the high preset, you may have to leverage FSR, but realistically, you're probably not going to be able to run Ultra in a lot of the newer games. So I feel like that's just kind of the compromise. But when you get to the sub $300 price range, I feel like the compromise is actually justified, versus if you're up at like the $400 price range, that's not really a compromise that someone who's paying that much money is willing to make. Yeah, as long as the 6650 is, well, see, I don't know. I feel like it's more so as long as the 6700 and the 6700 XT. Although the 6700 XT is more expensive than this card, so I guess you're right. The 6650 XT, until that one's completely gone, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess this one is not gonna sell. Yeah, like, yeah. 3070, 3070 Ti. Well, it's weird because 3070, 3070 Ti, like, those cards are already sold out. Like, you can't even find those anywhere. Can you still buy a 3070? Let me see. Like, let's look at Newegg real quick. So, RTX, let's do sold by Newegg. I don't want to buy from, like, some overseas thing that's going to take forever. Okay, so you still have 3070s. But look at how outrageous these prices are, though. Do you guys see this? $560 for an 8 gigabyte 3070 Ti. Okay, $10 off, so $550. $550 for an 8 gigabyte graphics card. Like, who would buy that? That's so bad. That is so bad. Considering the 6800 can be had for like 500 or less. And that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. This is terrible. The sad thing is these cards are actually faster than the 4060 Ti. But they are cheaper than the 4070. So they are kind of priced correctly, technically, but I still don't agree because like this card, the 3070 should be like $399. 3070 should be $399 maximum. Like this is $100 over what it should be. This is literally the MSRP. Do you guys see this? This is the MSRP of this card when it was new. How is a card... This is the reason why I don't understand how so many people just blindly buy Nvidia. What's sad is if you go look at Amazon's top 10 best-selling GPUs, I can guarantee you right now, the number one spot is the RTX 3060. The RTX 3060, followed by the 3060 Ti. Then probably the 3070. They're the best sellers. These terrible graphics cards with 8 gigabytes of VRAM are the best sellers on Amazon. That means there's enough of clueless people that are walking into a gaming experience that's just like what I just showed on The Last of Us. Like right now in 2023. So disappointing. It's so sad. Like instead of buying a 16 gigabyte Radeon 6800 or saving a lot of money and buying like a 6700 XT or a 6750 XT, they're buying this garbage. Like it's so bad. Not all of them have 12 gigabytes though. But I think you're right. I think the one on Amazon, when I last checked like 2 days ago, back when the 4060 Ti reviews were coming out, I remember checking on Amazon and I think the top seller was the 12 gigabyte 3060 on Amazon. Yeah. So it means that people, at least some people, know what they're doing. But like the vast majority of people that are buying 3070 8 gig and 3070 Ti 8 gig, they don't know what they're doing. Like they clearly are not paying attention if they're spending this kind of money on an 8 gigabyte graphics card in 2023. Brand new. It's bad. Because, like, part of the reason why I bought this card was to try to prove a point that, like, if you're going to buy an 8 gigabyte graphics card, you don't want to spend more than $300. Like, $300 is basically the max limit of 8 gigabytes in 2023. That was the reason why I got this card. Also to show, like, how it compares for mid-range. But obviously, you know, like, I was proven wrong by my own previous advice saying that like 12 gigs is kind of the minimum now. But, well, okay. I taught myself a lesson. What's the 3050? 3050, oh man. I don't know. 3060 8 gig is a scam? Yeah, it is a scam. Oh man. And you know what's sad? I know a bunch of people that play Star Citizen and they just bought 3060 Ti's to play Star Citizen. Oh, I'm just thinking of how much of a noob they are. You know, like, oh man. Star Citizen, like the most unoptimized game on the planet. Permanent alpha test. It's been in alpha for like a decade. And people went and bought 3060 Ti's to play it. $3050 is disappointingly slow, slower than RTX 2060 when the 2060 isn't limited by its. I tried to save them. They didn't want to listen to me. I tried to tell them to get a 6800. I literally kept saying, get a 6800. Like, look, I even kept telling them like 6800 or no, what it's gonna, what is it gonna show? That's funny. I forgot to get rid of the T. It's RTX 6800, and it came up with those results. So look, like, oh well, actually, oh these are the XTs. Here's one 500. 510 minus 20, so it becomes 490. It becomes 490. 490 for this. 490 for a 16 gig card. Sub $500 for a 16 gig, like, entry-level 4K card. Now, granted, I wouldn't recommend someone buy this for 4K, but definitely 1440p, this is totally fine. And that's what they were going to do. These people are going to play Star Citizen at 1440p on a 3060 Ti. It's like, yes, this is more money, but it's like not that much more money. It's like, at most, it's like $100 more. And it's, you know, double VRAM, and it's a lot faster. This thing is faster than 3070. The 6800 is the competitor to the 3070 Ti. So literally, someone could have spent like $90 more for to buy a 3070 Ti performance tier card that also has double the VRAM. Like it's like it's so hard. I don't understand how it's so hard to convince people to do the right thing, like, or to make an objective decision. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, what's the secret sauce? Like, what's that spell? That Hogwarts Legacy's high-level, like, endgame spell that NVIDIA can cast. That can, like, that Jedi mind trick that NVIDIA can do. Like, you will buy a 3060 Ti. I will buy a 3060 Ti. You know, like, I don't understand it, man. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like, you show them all this stuff and you explain it. It's like, nope, they still go and buy a 3060 Ti. Just make them play with The Last of Us. Paint the box green. Oh, I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic behind it. Yeah, because see, some of these are still going for really good. Like, see this ASRock? This ASRock has what looks like the same cooler that the 7600 that I have has. And then it's $40 off. So this is literally $500. This is RTX. Well, this is $100 less than the 4070. And isn't this, I'm trying to remember, is this faster? Yeah, or is it the same? I think it's about the, oh yeah. This is about the same as a 4070, because the 4070 is like 3080, and this thing was the rival to the 3080. So yeah, it's like you're saving $100 for the same performance class, and you're getting 16 gigs of RAM. Like, I don't understand like why people don't see, like, when you clearly tell them like this is the right move, like if they're playing chess, you tell them like this is the optimal move to make, and they don't do it. It's kind of mind-boggling. It's like, well, it's your money. It's you do what you want. Whatever. You can't complain to me when it's stutter struggle, because I can guarantee you they're complaining already about the game. You know what happened? Those people that went and bought the 3060 Ti, you know what they're complaining about? After they started playing the game, after a few days of playing on the 3060 Ti, they're already complaining about, like, why isn't Star Citizen optimized? Why is it such a mess? Well, why didn't you buy a 16 gigabyte graphics card, you know? Like, why did you bring this on yourself when you already know that the game has been in alpha for a decade? Don't expect them to automatically, like, fix the game just because you bought a 3060 Ti. See, I don't understand it. They're all complaining about how the game needs to be fixed. Like, it's the game's problem. It's the game's problem, right? Like, well, you knew the game was already going to run like trash. So it's like you try to work around that with the hardware to brute force it. But, well, rip, that's all I can say. Yeah, I know. You're the one person that I know that has a 16 gigabyte GPU from each vendor. Yeah, but I feel like this is redundant. Anyway, let's see what's. Oh yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn. So Horizon Zero Dawn works good. Let's try the Jedi Survivor game. Let's exit out of this. Now, hopefully EA allows me to actually like play Jedi Survivor on this PC, because they typically don't let you change PCs because of their stupid DRM. And that's what made me return Wild Hearts. So if I get locked out of Jedi Survivor because they're like, oh, you're playing it on a different PC, that's not allowed. That's against our policy. Well, if they're going to do that, then this isn't going to go very far. So let's see. I thought it was starting up, but I guess it has to start up the EA launcher or something. Oh, you know what? EA's launcher is complaining because Afterburner's open. It's like, you're running an unsupported third-party... Come on, where is it? I purposely bought this game on Steam to avoid EA, and it's like it won't leave me alone. All right, it looks like it's starting. All right, let's bring it up. All right, we got lucky. Now I bet if I go back to my main PC, like my streaming PC, and I try to bring up this game, it's gonna lock me out. It only allows 2 swaps. Yeah, because when I tried my third swap, it was like, no, you can't do it. It locked me out of playing Wild Hearts for like 24 hours, and then I'm like, okay, Steam, I'm gonna refund this now because I can't benchmark this. I can't do this. I was surprised that Steve from Hardware Unboxed actually put up with that, and the way he did it was he created so many EA accounts. He created like 12 EA accounts just for one game. That means he had to buy the game one time, or he had to buy a bunch of Ryzen CPUs so he could get all those like included game codes. That sounds so bad, but that sounds hilarious at the same time. He probably made like 12 EA accounts and then like had all those Ryzen 7000 CPUs for benchmarking and just basically redeemed each one of those codes. That's probably how he did it. That'd be hilarious if that's actually what he did. All right, we need to fix the visuals. So let's do, whoa, what happened? Why is it on the wrong monitor? Windowed full screen? Hold on, what's happening for the viewers? Like, why is it stretched? It moved it. I toggled this and it went over to the other monitor. I need to get it back to the main monitor. Man, this control scheme is terrible. I have to use the controller because it's just... It doesn't even want me to... How is this not, like... Dude, this is awful. I don't even know what's happening on the screen for you guys because it's like... This is so bad. This is terrible. Like... I can't even do anything with the mouse. I have to use the game controller to toggle through this menu. And I want to get it back on the other monitor. I don't know why it's on this monitor in the first place. Why is it on my second monitor? Okay, now it's windowed, but it's still full screen? Now I can't even see, like, what... How come I can't, like, save? Okay, that worked. Somehow, it magically worked. And that's not what I wanted to do, because it's not in a window, so I can't move the window around. Good job, EA. This totally feels like a finished product. This is not windowed. There's no window. I can't move it with my mouse. This is hilarious. Yeah. Let's see. How do I select what monitor it's gonna play on? See, and this is the reason why I barely ever buy anything published by EA. Yeah, for you guys it looks okay. For me, it's literally on the other monitor over here, and I don't know why, because the game loaded on the main monitor, but then it like moved over to this one somehow. And now I don't know how to move it back. Normally there's like a display select thing. I don't even see... What? Toggling ray tracing? Did I want to do that? I don't think I wanted to do that. I wanted to reset it to the default. Well, I guess we're going to be playing the game on this monitor for some reason. Let's do full screen. Or let's do... Modify 1080p. That should fix it. Okay, this is the other thing that's kind of weird. Like, I want to save the resolution, but it won't let me do it. And then it's going to revert back. Yeah. Hold on, maybe if I use the mouse. I'm like smashing the enter key and it doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't... This is fantastic. Over it and hold? Hold on, what? Okay, that worked. But it's on the wrong monitor. How come there's no, like... Why is there no way to change it to the other monitor? Hover with mouse and... Yeah, but how do I get it on the other monitor? You had the window option. Yeah, but the thing is, see what you don't see is that when it's in windowed mode, it's not a window that I can like drag around. I can't move it. It doesn't move. So I guess we're playing it like this. We're just gonna play it like this on this monitor. Okay, so Epic settings. I don't know why it moved to this monitor in the first place. What I find hilarious is the fact that you can't actually, well, whatever. You can't actually specify which window. What made it decide to go to the second monitor is beyond me. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, the reason why you guys see it stuttering is because it's in full screen window, or it's in full screen mode. So every time I alt tab, it like minimizes the game, and that's why it like looks like it's freezing up.
Gear could use a few tweaks.
Okay. Hold on. So why are we doing like 40 FPS? Is it VRAM limited? Okay, we're on Epic settings. It doesn't tell me how much... Oh, RT is on. But it doesn't tell me, like, how much VRAM it's using. Let's turn this off first. See if that makes a difference. Okay, that made a difference. So RT actually really, like, hurts the performance a lot. Let's turn it back on. So we're doing, like, 70 without RT. Now let's turn it back on. I know it's going to be like sub 60. Wait, why is VSync on? They fixed the CPU stuff? Yeah, I think they did. Toggling ray tracing. Please wait while this process is complete. Okay. Alright, this is RT on. And literally, I cannot tell a difference at all in the visuals. All I know is we're doing 40-something FPS now. 30-something FPS. Man, this is grounds for a Nick Tech video. This is the console experience. It feels like I'm playing the game on a PS4 right now. This is what it feels like. 43. This is like playing Dark Souls 3 on the original PS4 with the FPS unlocked. All right, here we go. This is where RT usually shows itself. The water shimmer. This is it. Forspoken levels. It's like I can't tell what it's doing visually. Alright. That's what it looks like. Because it takes so long to turn on and off, I'm going to just turn it off. This isn't RT. Well, I mean, that's what it says that's RT. It literally just says ray tracing. I don't know what it does. It doesn't look like it does anything. Okay, we turn it off. It actually looks better with it off. It actually looks better with it off. The water actually looks better with it off. Did you see how shimmery it looked and how weird it looked just now with the RT on? This actually looks how water's supposed to look. This is actually the proper way it's supposed to look. Man, do you understand why I'm not a firm believer in the current implementations of ray tracing? This is why, like, unless it's like Quake 2 and like Minecraft, or maybe like the new path tracing in Cyberpunk, but you can see what that does to like every GPU. It's almost like it's such a gimmick right now. Like, especially at the lower end, you know, like entry level cards. This is what I was saying. Like when I was analyzing the 4060 Ti reviews, the ray tracing performance. Yeah, it's like the one trick pony that the 4060 Ti has. However, the stupid 8 gigabytes of VRAM is what kills it at that price tier. So it's like, okay, it literally canceled out the RT advantage that it had. So it still turns it into more of like a novelty as opposed to an actual thing that you must have. You know what I'm saying? So it's like... oh, man. It's hilarious. The Intel Arc performs like that. Yeah, but it's like... We're either going to be VRAM limited or we're going to, like, tank in performance. I noticed that we're 34 gigs of VRAM, yeah, or system RAM, yeah. Yeah, here, let's try, let's see, this is epic. Let's turn this down to high. Alright, now everything is on high. Let's see what happens. That is a huge difference. Oh, wait, never mind. That's because we were in the menu. So now it's like it didn't really... In this part of the game, I noticed I was sub 60. I was like 59 oftentimes in this area. Now we're like at 60. Is VSync off? Why does it feel like VSync is on? No, it's actually going above it. Yeah, when you run around like the buildings and stuff, the FPS seems like it still does that weird behavior like it did when we were in Coruscant, where it looks like it's CPU bound. I don't know if there was a patch that fixed that. Actually, let's figure out where I need to go. Let's actually play a little bit of this game, because I'm actually curious to play this game. Man, now I know why that guy that was in front of me at Micro Center was, like, asking me what kind of games are you going to play with that card. I should have just said esports and then said nothing else. But I was like, you know, like Hogwarts Legacy. Like, all the things that you probably shouldn't play with this graphics card. Well, you can thank the PlayStation 5 and the Series X for pushing the industry forward. Because they target 4K, they're pushing the industry forward. They're forcing games to use a lot more VRAM. Or just a lot more system resources in general. If you have a GPU with 12 or more, 32 gigs of system RAM won't be an issue. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's because it's having to cache a lot of game assets to the system RAM. That's what's happening. Now I know what it's like for everyone who has like a 3060 Ti, 3070 Ti. Basically anyone who doesn't have like a higher VRAM option on their card. Oh, that's the other question that the guy that was in line to check out at Micro Center, he asked me, is there like a 12 gigabyte version of that card? And I told him no, it's like just this one, as far as I know. Like, I don't know if the if there's a 7600 XT, I don't know if that one will have 10 gigabytes of VRAM. If there is such a thing, I really hope that it has 10 gigabytes of VRAM, or 12. Ideally 12, but hopefully 10. Because I think we figured it out the other day. Like, this card is the equivalent of like an RX 470 or an RX 570. This is the 2048 shader card, which means there could be a 2304, like a 2304, like an XT. Because on Tech Power Up, it literally lists this card as a, here, I'm gonna Alt Tab out, and that's why it's gonna do that. This is kind of laughable. Wait, why is it? Oh, because it Alt Tab. What did I want to do? I wanted to bring up Tech Power Up. So, like with this graphics card, so, see, this is 2048 cores, shader cores, which means this card technically is probably not the fully unlocked die. Because if we go look at these, so look, check this out. This is 2048 on a 128-bit bus, but it's 2048 shaders. This one, the RX 470, is also 2048. So this one, although it's 256-bit bus, but that's besides the point. The point I'm making is it's the same shader count, as the old 470. So if we look at the 480 was the fully unlocked Ellesmere Polaris 2304 shader cores. So this one was 4 gigs, this one was 8 gigs. So they could, in theory, do like 12, I think. Or, well, I don't know, because it's the bus. Well, I think what they did was they went with the cheap RAM, and this one they went with like the double density RAM, or something like that. I think that's what they did. Are you sure it's the full Navi 33? There's no 2304? Or there's no revision? Do we have like 100% confirmation on that? FP32 equals TMUs times ROPS times shader clock divided by 2000. Where's the 2000 coming from? Wait, what are you're talking about FP32? That's like, that's this. What does FP32 have to do with the shader count, though? Because typically, historically, AMD always has like a 2304, a 2048. You know, because look, in here, I don't know how accurate this is, but check this out. Tech Power Up claims that this chip, the 7600, is the Navi 33 XL. They're saying this is the XL. The XL is the cut down model. Because check this out. RX 470. Polaris 10 Pro. Polaris 10 Pro is basically XL. So if it says XT, it's the fully unlocked. Check this out. RX 480, 2304 cores. Bam. Polaris 10 XT. So Tech Power Up is claiming that this is the XL, which means this is not the fully unlocked die, if that's true. I don't know where they got that information, but this is not the fully unlocked die. If this statement, where they're calling it the Navi 33 XL, if this is truly the XL, that means this is not the fully unlocked die. Because internally within AMD, there is an XL, which is the cut down, and there's the XT, which is the fully unlocked. Which is the full die, I should say, not fully unlocked, the full die. The 7800 XT will have... The 7800 XT is a completely different chip. The 7800 XT is not Navi 33. The 7700 XT is the one I have no idea. We already know what the 7800 is, though. Right here, bam. Right there. This is it, guys. 128 ROPS, 256-bit bus, 4,480 cores, Navi 31, the Radeon Pro W7800. This is what you're looking at right now is the 7800 XT wearing a business suit for professional work. That's it. This is the 7800 XT specs. So we already know what the 7800 XT is. What we don't know is what the 7700 XT will be. That's the one that I have no idea what that's going to be. It has less TMUs than that. Yeah, because this is not, because the 6900 XT is the equivalent of the 7900 XTX. Yeah, the Tuxedo edition. Exactly. That's what that one is. The Pro W7800 Tuxedo edition. But that's it. Like, we already know what the 7800... I'm not concerned about the 7800 XT. I'm concerned about the 7700 XT and whether or not there is actually a larger one of these. Like a 2304 of the Navi 33. That would be like a 7600 XT. If this is true, if Tech Power Up has some insider information and they're indirectly or directly leaking the fact that this is an XL, that leaves the door open for an XT variant of this that has 2304 shader cores. Basically something that would be more aligned with an RX 480 successor. It would just have 64 ROPS instead of 32. And it'd be a 128-bit bus. So so I'm not convinced that this is the full Navi 33 because this kind of tells me that it's not. I don't know, this could be a complete typo, but it's like, I don't know, usually tech publications like Tech Power Up are privy to stuff that the regular general public doesn't know about. And they're probably under some kind of NDA, so technically maybe this is breaking NDA, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there's some other GPU, probably a Navi 33, that's between this thing and the 7700 XT or whatever they end up calling it. So yeah, I'm not convinced this is the only one. Now, it could be that due to yields or whatever, they're selling this one first, the cut down one. I don't know what it is. Or maybe this is all it is, and they are never going to sell the 2304 core count. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? It's really weird, having to constantly toggle between the chat and all these windows, because the game is on the secondary monitor. Anyway, I think this is a cut down model, because they usually have something that's larger than that. Let's look at some of their older ones. See, the Fury X. Let's look at that. Fury X was 4096. But this is a weird one because the design is so off the wall with a 4096-bit bus. So that's probably a bad example. Let's look at their classic. Let's look at the 390X. 2816, 512-bit bus. I don't know. The high-end AMD cards always were confusing because they changed them so often. They would do things like 512-bit, 4096, 1024. They would do all kinds of off-the-wall designs. The only ones that actually were consistent were the mid-range. So like 470, you know, 2048 was a common number. Like if you go all the way back to like 79, let's see like 7970, the classic Tahiti. This thing was 2048 on a 384. Vega 64 was some other weird one though. Like Vega 64 was some like random 1020 or 2048-bit bus or some nonsense. Like what was this one? See, 2048, some random number, like 4090, same exact cores as the Fury X, but it was like half the bus width, but it was HBM2 and it was double the memory because it was the more dense one. Same ROPS. Like I always thought like AMD, back when AMD could only ever match Nvidia, like either Nvidia's second fastest card or like be slower than their fastest card. I always thought AMD was always limited by the ROPS because Nvidia would have like 96 ROPS on like their 980 Ti, and then AMD's like launching a flagship with like 64 ROPS. Because I remember when there was rumors about Radeon 7 having like 128 ROPS, that turned out to be fake news. It only ended up having 64. See, it had 64 ROPS. If this thing had 128 ROPS, this thing actually would have competed with the 2080 Ti. Instead, it ended up competing with the 2080 because it was basically gimped on the ROPS. Yeah, they fixed their ROPS problem with RDNA 2. Like 6000 series fixed it. Because see, only their like 700 class card, that was the 64 ROPS card. Everything above that was more. 128 ROPS right there on a 6800 XT. And look at the performance of this thing compared to Radeon 7. So that's the reason why, like, because I think, yeah, they stuck with 128. But then, like, now with this thing, they go up to 192. That's a lot. So, yeah. But I always thought it was the ROPS. A lot of people in the tech press and, like, hardware people, we all thought that it was the ROPS. Like, 64 ROPS on Vega, 64 ROPS on Radeon 7. Like, all their GCN cards were bottlenecked by the ROPS. Because every time you look at, like, a flagship NVIDIA card and a flagship AMD card, the AMD card always maxed out at 64, and NVIDIA would go up to, like, I think 92 or something. Like, what was the 980... The 980 Ti? 96, see? 96 ROPS versus like Fury X with 64. When you look at it that way, it's kind of amazing that the Fury X with 64 ROPS was able to be neck and neck with the 980 Ti. Now, most of the time, the 980 Ti would win by like 10% or so. But the fact that AMD could build a 64 ROP card that could keep up with this thing with 96 ROPS, like, that's pretty interesting. It's a technical achievement in itself. And they were limited on like 4 gigs of VRAM. But the thing is, VRAM wasn't so much of an issue back then. They did weird. They went like, AMD would do like wide bus, slow speed, or like no, that's not right. They would do like wide memory bus. I guess slower transfer speed, but it's wider, so you can get things through faster, or something like that. I don't know. NVIDIA went like faster on the memory, but it was like narrower, so kind of the opposite effect. And I think like NVIDIA's design was the one that game developers utilized more, and that's the reason why AMD moved to that design structure with RDNA 1 and RDNA 2. And that's what fixed, like, all the issues. because Mark Cerny talked a lot about that in the Road to PlayStation 5 in that one presentation where he had all those like fake silhouettes of all those people that were supposedly in the audience when it was literally just him on a green screen. Yeah, I remember that presentation, and he talked at length about like the memory bus and all that jazz and whatever. So, yeah. So AMD doesn't have a ROPS problem anymore. In fact, what's the what's Nvidia's ROP count on like 4070? See, like 4070 64. See, AMD's basically now like Nvidia in terms of the ROPS. Like, what's Nvidia's most, like, what's the most ROPS Nvidia has? 176. See, AMD's actually higher now on the ROP count, 192, by a little bit. But the thing is, Nvidia has like a ton of like SMs, so that's why. Did you see the news of the handheld? Yeah, I saw that. I watched some of that Sony gaming showcase thing. 4090 has 512 TMUs. What's the what's this one? 384, 500. Oh yeah, that is significantly different. Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's the reason why AMD's card, like, see, a lot of people who keep on saying, occasionally I'll hear these comments where it's like, is AMD's card slower than NVIDIA's because of the drivers? The answer is no. The answer is NVIDIA just has a beefier card. Like, you can literally see that on the hardware specs. It used to be AMD, like, NVIDIA had lighter weight hardware, except NVIDIA had more ROPS. Therefore, they technically did better in geometry. AMD historically did better in compute, and NVIDIA was better in tessellation because of the ROPS. And that is what games favored, and that's why NVIDIA tended to do better in gaming, and AMD did better in compute. This is the reason why, in the early days of cryptocurrency, like 2014, 2017, the first two crypto waves, this is the reason why back then, AMD cards were the preferred cards to mine crypto on because they had far better compute performance. But then when NVIDIA like flipped the script and went RTX 30 series, they went heavy on compute. And all of a sudden 30 series became the preferred card for mining. AMD went more lightweight on stuff like TMUs, but they went heavy on ROPS. So AMD got a lot better at like the tessellation, the geometry with RDNA 2 specifically. So it's like they both started becoming what they weren't. AMD became better at geometry and gaming and rasterization as a result of that, and NVIDIA became better at compute. Whereas what AMD like did what NVIDIA was good at, and NVIDIA started doing what AMD was good at. So you can clearly see that when you look at what is actually listed on paper, like on the actual specs. So when people say like, why isn't the XTX as fast as 4090? Is it a driver problem? It's not a driver problem. It's the fact that it's not as like robust as an actual piece of silicon. You can clearly see it. It has the same amount of VRAM, but it's not the same piece of silicon. Look at this. This is a 529 versus a 608. So the other thing too is like this isn't even in the same price class. So every time I see people comparing the 7900 XTX to this, I don't know why. Like it's almost like it's almost like the 4080 doesn't exist for some reason. Like everybody likes to pretend that the 4080 doesn't exist. Every single comparison I see is 7900 XTX versus RTX 4090. When there is such a large price gap between those two cards, you could literally buy two 7600s that fit between the price of an XTX and a 4090. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, but nobody ever talks about the 4080. Like, nobody ever even brings it up in discussion. Like, all the video, like, not videos, but like any sort of discussion that I ever hear about, it's always like, people are always asking, why is the XTX slower than the 4090? Like, what's wrong? Like, as though there's something wrong. Like, what? There's nothing wrong. Like, that. It is what it is. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, no. It's like, 4090 is the best Nvidia can do, and XTX is the best AMD can do. That's why. Is that the well? The reality is neither one of those cards are actually their best cards, though. That's the thing. Like, here's the thing. If the 4090 had a Titan name, people would pretend that it that it doesn't exist, and then everyone would then compare the 4080 to the XTX. Because Nvidia decided to stop using the Titan name, like, people somehow consider it like a valid graphics card for consideration. No one will consider, like, DGX1. No one will consider the accelerators in, like, the servers and stuff. Those are actually Nvidia's best GPUs, not the 4090. And likewise, AMD's MI300s and their accelerators, those are their best GPUs, not the XTX. The XTX and the 4090 are not their best GPUs. So, man, I don't know. It's just so, like, I don't have anything else to say on it. 4090 Ti will have 142 SMs. AMD said it could make a 4090 competitor, but it would be too costly and power hungry, so they forgot about it. Well, I don't know how much of that statement's true. They're clearly making stuff in the data center that's, like, very, very disruptive. I forgot where the article... I don't know if it was on WCCF Tech or somewhere, but I saw, like, an article about the MI300 or something like that. AMD's first exascale... No, that's 1 year ago. 2 years. There was like a really recent article. Anyway, the point is AMD has way, way faster cards than the XTX. But they're only selling them in the enterprise market. Like, they're not selling them to consumers. They want in on that AI gravy train that Nvidia is on right now. And that's the thing, like, Nvidia is actually decreasing their orders for 4060, 4060 Ti. Basically, all of their GeForce cards, Nvidia has decreased the amount of wafer orders from TSMC. And they have increased the wafer orders for the AI accelerator cards. Like it's clear where Nvidia's priorities are. I don't know what AMD's doing, but AMD, like, they're a smaller company for one thing, so I guess as far as I know, they're not really changing much of their allocations. I mean, I haven't heard anything. Those cards are already in A3. Yeah, they're already in A3. Everything AMD is making right now is already in A3. Yes, and so is AMD's, though. Like, both of them. But AMD and Nvidia are going to be the most valuable technology companies. Now, okay, this is not, like, financial advice for people to, like, go out and buy, like, AMD or Nvidia stock. All I'm saying is it's pretty clear to me that AMD and Nvidia have a very, very clear advantage at getting into the AI market, or being at the center of the AI market. And that's huge. So you can expect, like, Nvidia stock and AMD stock to go up, like, a lot in the next, like, 2 years, or at least the next 18 months. So if you look at the chips that they're building in the enterprise, this is the reason why, like, 4090, all this argument about, when I think of, like, people arguing about 4090 versus XTX, it's like watching, like, an ant and a termite, like, fight it out. Like, and you're basically like a god, like looking down on them, like they have no idea, like the reality of what's going on behind the scenes. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's one thing, but it's like, if you look at the data center, if you look at AI, and you look at where the demand is, where the money is for these two companies, that's where they're focused. And that's the reason why when you look at AMD stock, and you look at Intel stock, AMD's valuation is way higher than Intel right now, despite the fact that I feel like when it comes to the CPU market, AMD has a better platform than Intel, but I feel like the public's perception of the Ryzen 7000 series has been somewhat scuffed recently because of that weird, like, the socket issue, because the motherboards were overvolting the SoC or something like that. I feel like that's kind of damaged the reputation somewhat. So that's unfortunate, because I do feel like AM4 or AM5 is a superior platform to Intel's LGA 1700. So it's weird. And then it's like, in the enthusiast market, I see a lot of people recommending 13th generation. But it's like, why? Because I guess if the person's gonna keep their computer for 4 years, 5 years, I guess that's okay. And it's like, they understand that that's like all they're gonna get, right? So you can't change your CPU. You have to swap your motherboard if you want to upgrade again. So it's like, I can't recommend Intel because it's not a modern platform. Like, it's a modern platform, but it's not a platform that has any runway. There's no upgradability. That's why I don't like it. The AMD, like the AM5 platform, is far more easier to recommend because you have a drop-in socket upgrade option for probably 2 more different CPU series, at least. Maybe a third one, but realistically 2. And then you have the PCI Gen 5, like the full Gen 5, and you don't have any sort of compromise on the Gen 5 like you do on the Intel platform. So that's the reason why, like, from a platform standpoint, AMD is actually superior to Intel on the CPU side. But I think a lot of people can't see that, or they just don't pay attention to that. All they do is they look at, like, some guy who, like, overclocked his RAM to, like, 7200 megahertz or whatever. And it's like, hey guys, look, I can run fast speed RAM. It's unfortunate because it's unfortunate for AMD because Intel was the first to get DDR5 out the gate. Because DDR5 on Intel wasn't even good, like on Alder Lake, like on 12th generation. So it's one of those things where it's like a leapfrog thing where AMD's on Gen 1 DDR5 and Intel's on Gen 2 DDR5. So clearly Intel should be able to clock faster. If they can't, then it's kind of embarrassing for them. So that's kind of the problem with the CPU market right now. In my mind, that's the thing. That's the one thing that I've noticed. Like, I'm surprised that a lot of people are actually getting the 13700K. It is good to see that people aren't wasting money on the 13900K for gaming, especially because that thing is a joke. Like, that's a complete waste of money for 16 E-cores for gaming. It doesn't do anything. So it's like 13700K. I can see that one being the one that a lot of people are upgrading to because it comes across as like a balanced CPU. You know what I'm saying? It's like 8 P cores, 8 E cores. It doesn't use the insane amount of electricity that the 13900K does. It doesn't cook itself at 100 degrees Celsius instantly. Although technically you do really need a super high-end cooler for the 13700K. But that's the thing. Like, the Intel platform feels more refined than the AMD platform. And that's because think about what we're looking at. We are comparing a mature end-of-the-line socket with its final tier CPU, the best it's ever going to be, to a brand new socket, first generation of motherboards, first generation DDR5 memory controller, Like, it's basically like a uneven comparison, but it's still going to be what you're going to compare it to. So that's basically why I feel like there's a lot of people that still end up buying Intel, but it's kind of sad because they are hurting themselves if there's someone who does want to upgrade within the next 3 years without having to do a completely system, a full system rebuild. So, and then if they're buying 13th generation with DDR4, they are shooting themselves in the foot because, like I said in my video covering the 13th series, the 13th gen, if you're buying 13th gen, and if you're pairing it with DDR4, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are literally like leaving performance on the table just straight up. So that's the wrong way to go with 13th generation. Like, it's okay if someone's gonna buy DDR4 on like a Z690, they should be buying Alder Lake, not Raptor Lake. Raptor Lake is for those that are going all in on DDR5. Alder Lake is for those that are going to cheap out and go budget. They're going to buy a 7600 to play on a 1080p monitor, so they should buy a DDR4 motherboard like a Z690 on clearance, because those are EOL now, and they're going to pair that up with like a 12700K. That's what they need to do. So... well, no, they'll still matter. They'll still matter, and like the thing is, the SSD stuff will actually matter too, probably more sooner than the GPUs, because there's probably gonna be more games that do like what Spider-Man 2 is gonna do, what we saw Forspoken do, but they're gonna implement direct storage Gen 2, not Gen 1, because Forspoken was Gen 1. That's why it was so bad. PCI Gen 5 won't matter. Well. Never say never. You never know what the game developers are going to do to force everybody to be on super high-end hardware just to brute force past all their unoptimizations. 4090 doesn't even use PCI Gen 4x16. 12700 non-K used from eBay. 12700, yeah, that's the thing. Like if someone wants to go for a cheap Intel build, 12700 plus DDR4. That's what it is. Like when I consider like the different builds, if we're talking budget Intel, it's 12th gen plus DDR4. If we're talking budget AMD, it's like Zen 3, aka 5800X3D plus DDR4. But if you're going like super high-end premium platform, it's gonna be like AMD 7000 series with the X670 or X670E. Versus like the Intel Z690, because Z790 is a joke, and then DDR5 on the 13th gen. That's basically what it is. So, but yeah, like in my mind, Intel tops out at 13700K, but AMD can go all the way up to the 7950X3D, because it's like that's still different from the lower core count CPUs. Like, I think one of the best examples I can give you is Brad Shoemaker when he did his build on PC World, and he specifically chose to go with the 78950X3D instead of the 13700K. And they asked him, why did you choose to go with AMD? And he said he gave two reasons. One, lower power consumption. And you guys can see, we're literally doing like 60 watts. Oh, you guys can't see. Actually, let me go back in the game. You guys can see 60 watts. We're 60 watts, 55 Celsius. Okay, so one of the reasons, power consumption versus the 13900K. So you could get away with an air cooler, because he went with an air cooler. He went with a Noctua. And then, just like me, and I don't blame him because I don't like liquid coolers. And then the other thing was, he said he wanted 16 big cores. 16 big cores. 16 true cores. Not 8 big cores and 16 little cores. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wanted 16 cores that all have SMT. Not 8 cores with SMT plus like 16 cores that don't do SMT. That was his reason. And that's a very good reason. And the upgradability. The fact that he can drop into like a Zen 5 or whatever, like next year, and then he can all of a sudden run fast DDR5. So, oh, the camera got shifted. It fell over. Oh, yeah, you're right. Whoops. There we go. There you go. Three months ago, you built the 5600X system on cheap, and you mean cheap? Yeah. PCI, yeah, 4090. So, next generation, next year, we're going to get Gen 5 GPUs. Guaranteed. You know why? Because neither AMD nor NVIDIA were expecting that random Chinese company to crank out a PCI Gen 5 GPU. Like, that kind of blindsided them. Because I have a feeling both of them wanted to claim world's first Gen 5 GPU. And now neither one of them can do it. Because some random Chinese startup is like, hey guys, I made a GPU, PCIe Gen 5, the first one in China. So because of that, it's like, well, there goes your world record. So there goes the Guinness for them. So anyway, the point is next year, they're going to release Gen 5 GPUs. So, and that's the reason why it's like, you can do Gen 5 on Intel. But if you're going to do Gen 5 on Intel, I hope you're on a Z690 motherboard instead of a Z790 motherboard. Because we talked about that. Z790, if you want to use your main SSD slot on the Intel Z790, you can't do it. You can't use it unless you want to steal half of your PCIe lanes that go to your GPU. So, which means the best you can do on the Z790, assuming you want to fill up all your SSD slots, all your M.2s, including the primary one, because the primary one takes lanes from the GPU, you can only run your GPU at X8. You literally turn your flagship GPU on a Z790 into a laptop GPU. And to me, that's not very enthusiast. It's not enthusiast-like. So if someone's on Intel, they better be on Z690 and not Z790, because Z790 is the one that's garbage. So we've talked about that like at length in multiple live streams. So, but anyway, that's the other reason why I don't like Intel's current platform, because it gimps you, there's a lot of resource sharing. So there's less of that with AMD. Now if you're on like B650, yeah, then you can expect resource sharing, because that's a budget chipset which doesn't have a lot of lanes, so that they're going to have to make a lot of compromises there. But it makes sense because the price point is like, $200 or whatever, which is kind of crazy considering what you used to be able to do with a $200 motherboard. But that's just how it is. So overall, my final thoughts on mid-range, entry-level, the struggle is real. The struggle's real for those that are on 8GB cards. Now I have a first-hand account of what it's like to play these modern games in 2023 with an 8GB graphics card. So this is definitely only for those who are on a really old graphics card, at least an RTX 20 series, if not older, in my mind. Maybe like, 2060. From 2060 to this, that'd be a nice upgrade. From 1060, that would be an excellent upgrade. But other than that, anyone who's on something newer, either skip or look for a used GPU if you're okay buying used. A lot of people are not okay buying used. That's the thing. Like, they don't know what the previous owner did with the GPU. Most of the time, it's fine, but you never know, right? Like, unless you're buying from someone who you actually know, then it's not a problem. You could have grabbed a mid-range Ryzen to simulate the full experience. Yeah, I mean, I have a... Although I don't... I could probably pull that PC, but I have, like, another PC that's... It's not with me right now, but I can probably borrow it. It's my old 5800X. I have an old 5800X PC that would probably be a good platform to compare these GPUs with. But what I plan to do is I plan to simulate like PCI Gen 3 X8 versus PCI Gen 4 X8, and then also test with Intel's GPU, which is X16, and then also test with the old GPU like the RX 480 and the GTX 970. I have to include NVIDIA, so we're gonna have to do 970 because that's the oldest NVIDIA card that I have. That even though it's more expensive than this card, it's the only one. I mean, it kind of mimics like a 1060 3 gig, so I guess it's a relevant choice. I just don't have a lot of like mid-range NVIDIA cards. I just realized that. I literally only have the 970. Everything else that I have that's an NVIDIA card is a higher end card. Yeah, 2024 games. See, I don't know. Like, maybe it's true. It could end up that way. I just think, like, I feel like AMD, like, with the graphics cards, it's almost like their even numbers tend to do better. And with their CPUs, their odd numbers tend to do better. Although, yeah, their odd numbers tend to do better. It's kind of weird, right? Like, think about AMD. I think RDNA 2... Well, we don't know yet, because we haven't seen the 7700 XT and the 7800 XT. But I think that AMD's even-numbered GPUs tend to be more successful than their odd-numbered GPUs. Because the RX 480 was very popular. So was the 470. The 580 and the 570 were not as popular, but they were also instantly gobbled up by crypto miners. And then so that's an odd number GPU. Then there was the 6000, the 5000. 5000 was not as popular. So then it was 6000. So 6000 was an even numbered AMD series, and I think the 6000 series was probably one of their most successful GPU series in a long time. So now we're at 7000 series, and you know, these are okay, but they don't really do anything. So yeah, I think the even numbered AMD Radeon cards tend to be more successful than the odd number. But then with the Zen stuff, it's the opposite. The odd-numbered Zens tend to do a lot better. Case in point, Zen 3. Look at how good Zen 3 was. Zen 2 was not as successful. Zen 1 was a game changer. Zen 2 was kind of... Well, Zen 2 was also pretty good. Well, it kind of depends on how you look at it. Because it's like, if we're going by product launches, Ryzen 1000 series was very popular, even though it was kind of janky in the beginning. Which is kind of how this, like, 7000 series felt at launch. With the long post times and the memory training and all that stuff. You had to get all these BIOS updates and then it was fixed. So, like, that was very much like how first-gen Ryzen was. But, like, Ryzen 1000 was a game changer because you could get 8 cores for, like, $300. So that was really nice. So, that's an odd-numbered launch. Then there was the Ryzen 2700X. That's just like a mild improvement. So that one wasn't really that popular. Then there was Zen 3000 or like 3800X, 3950X. That was extremely popular because it was the first 16 core 32 thread consumer desktop, the 3950X. Then there was the 6000, well, that was laptop only. And then the 7000, which is where we are now. So, I don't know. The even... Oh, but yeah, you're right. If we're going by generations, yeah. Zen 5, Zen 1, Zen 3, Zen 5 are probably more successful than Zen 2 and Zen 4. Because Zen 2... The 3000 series was really good, but I think like people still were buying a lot of like 9900K And then 10th generation Intel came out. That was kind of a repeat of 9th gen, except they had a 10 core. And then on the Comet Lake, then Zen 3 came out, and that was like, yeah, that was like the best one. So, in fact, people are still buying it. People are still buying Zen 3, so they're still shipping Zen 3 from TSMC. That's crazy. That's crazy. Think about that. Zen 3, the Ryzen 5000 series, the 5950X, is older than Intel's 11th gen. It's older than the 12th gen. And obviously it's older than the 13th gen. It's older than 3 generations of Intel's products, and it's still on the market. Rocket Lake, 11th gen, is already end of life. Alder Lake is going to go end of life later this year. Raptor Lake will probably go end of life late next year. So, man, that's crazy. Like, Ryzen 5000 is still around after 3 generations of Intel CPUs. So, yeah, I think that's testament to how successful that generation of Zen processors was. So, in fact, I feel like the 5800X3D alone probably cannibalized so many Zen 4 upgrades. I mean, it also denied Intel some sales as well. But, man, that's crazy. And it's like an older architecture. So we'll see. I think Zen 5 is coming out in the first half of next year, though. Probably March, if I had to guess. Or April. No, I think they're done. The reason why they're not going to do that, Felipe, is because they're not doing any more... They're not doing any more... What is it called? PGA? They're not doing any PGA sockets anymore. So they're not building for that packaging type. Everything they do is going to be LGA only now. So that's why. That's why there's not going to be an X3D. Because there's nothing stopping them from doing that, but they're just not going to do it because they're done with the PGA design. So RDNA 4 is next year, yes. It's going to be at the end of next year. I think AMD for graphics cards, they pretty much stick to the same like Q4 release schedule. So you can bet on RDNA 4 coming out in Q4 of 2024. So it's still a long way off. But the CPUs though, the CPUs will come out sooner. I expect Zen 5 in like March or April, May at the latest for Zen 5. Yeah, but Zen 5's going to be first half next year. And I'm probably going to upgrade to it, to be honest. I'll keep my X3D, like the CPU that I'm using right now. I'm going to keep this one. But the other one, I'm probably going to like get rid of that one or something. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But rest assured, you can probably expect to see me upgrade the 7950X to whatever the Zen 5 16 core is for the live streaming PC next year when that comes out. So definitely going to do that. And I do plan to do like stuff with DDR5 because I've been meaning to do a video on DDR5, but it's so... I feel like there's... What can I do? Like I've already shown 128 gigabytes. I kind of want to do content on the new like the 48 gig high density DDR5, but that stuff's still really expensive. So I'm waiting for the price of the dense DDR5 to come down. And then I might get some of that. But at the same time, I'm waiting for it to come down in price. And I'm waiting for it to go up in speed. So that next year, when Zen 5 comes out, I'll be able to get like 96 gigabytes on 2 DIMMs. So 48 plus 48 at like 6,000 or whatever the higher rated speed is. You're not upgrading until 8800X3D. That's probably next year too. Probably in the summer, if I had to guess. So that's like a little more than a year from now. If I'm guessing, that's like 14 months out from today, from where we are today. But we already know, like, they have Zen 5 already. Like, they have the orders for TSMC to mass produce the Zen 5. Those are probably going to go through, like, in October or September. So they'll be ready to ship, like, early next year. So Zen, not the X3D, but, like, the regular, you know, the 16 core, the 12 core, whatever they do. But I think Zen 5 is going to still be the same core count. So, meaning AMD is going to have to sell against Intel's E-core, P-core thing for another generation. Like, they're going to have to compete with Intel advertising an i9 as like 24 cores when it's really not 24 cores, you know, like 8 plus 16. Or 8 plus whatever they decide to do with the E-cores. Because I think Intel's going to go with more E-cores. They're going to probably do like 8 plus 24 or something. I don't know. So they'll have like a 32 core. They'll claim like a 32 core i9. But it's literally like 8 P-cores plus just a whole bunch of E-cores. So I feel like that's going to be kind of tough for AMD to compete on the multi-thread. So that means Zen 5 is going to have some insanely good IPC improvements to compete with Intel's higher thread count in multi-threaded workloads. But we'll see. Yeah, next year is going to be exciting because we have an odd-numbered Zen, and the odd-numbered Zens are usually the good ones. You know, Zen 1, Zen 3. Zen 1 was good. That was a game changer. Zen 3 was like the best. Arguably, Zen 3 was probably the best. Either the very best or maybe the second best. Definitely in the top 3 of all-time architectures that AMD ever made in the company's entire history of existence. So I think Zen 5 is going to be like a return to form for them. It's going to have like faster DDR5 support, just like Raptor Lake. And then it's going to have like way better IPC than Zen 4 because it's the new architecture. Yeah, Intel's GPUs are next year also. No, RDNA 4 is next year. RDNA 4 is next year, but it's going to be at the very end of next year. So if you're waiting for RDNA 4, you're going to be waiting for a very long time. We're talking like November, December of next year for the new Radeon cards. So that's not coming out anytime soon. That's going to be like the last thing that you can look forward to. Just like how it was last year and just like how it was in 2020. Next year there might be a new Nintendo. Yeah, probably. There should be. There better be. Let's put it that way. There better be a new Nintendo system next year. Let me get to see consumer grade. 48 gigabyte GPU. I don't know about that, but maybe 32. There might be 32 gigabyte consumer GPUs. 24 gig. So I expect 16, 20, 24, and 32 to become far more common with the next generation. So like the 5090. The RTX 5090 will probably be 32 gigabytes of VRAM. The 5080 will be 24, and the 5070 will be like 16 or probably 16. I think NVIDIA won't do 20. I think NVIDIA is going to do like 32, 24, 16, and 12. That's what I think they're going to do. And then their 50, like their RTX 5050. That sounds so weird to say. The 5050 will be like 8 gigs or something like that for the low end. So yeah. And then AMD will probably just be like 32, 24, 20, and 16. And AMD's like lowest end will probably be 12 because AMD typically tends to have a little bit more than NVIDIA across the stack. Stranger Things 5, yeah, I don't know. Alright, anyway, I think that's going to be it for this stream. I'm a little bit underwhelmed now after testing all these games, although realistically, the only one that was insanely hard to run was... well, this game's using a lot of RAM, but the one that was hard to run was The Last of Us, that game. And the weird texture pop-in on Hogwarts Legacy that was fixed after restarting the game. I don't know. A little bit underwhelmed, though. I kind of, like, taught myself a lesson about VRAM that I thought I already knew, apparently. So we'll see. I'll probably do, like, a comparison video. This card, 7600 versus 480 and 970. But I might do, like, another video comparing this with Intel's card. But I really think that if I want to compare this to Intel, I probably need to get, like, an A750 at some point to do a proper comparison. Yeah, this was a $300 lesson. We'll see. I've got some interesting ideas for it. It's definitely a low power card. I can tell you that. Like it's been running the game FPS uncapped the whole time. Like I'm literally sitting next to it right here. You guys can see the camera. And like I can't hear it. It's completely silent. I can't hear it over the case fans. It's just chilling the whole time at like 62 Celsius at like 1200 RPM. So that's really nice. I put my hand like right here. I can't feel any hot air. Like I can feel like it's barely even like it's nothing compared to like a 7900 XTX. Let's put it that way in terms of the heat emanating from the card. So it's very cool and quiet. The ASRock one, this one, like it looks really nice. It looks cool. We'll see. It's a monolithic design. You could leave it running something AFK overnight. Yeah, and it wouldn't heat up the room. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like it's not heating up the room at all. Like it's comfortable in here, and I haven't even had the AC running at all. So yeah, it is nice to have a low powered GPU. There are benefits to it, although you sacrifice on the performance, obviously. But yeah, I was curious to see like what you can do with 8 gigs of RAM. Clearly, it's not a good experience. However, there's other things too that it can do. Like it's got the AV1, so we'll probably look at DaVinci Resolve AV1 with this card. It's also AMD's monolithic design. It's a complete monolithic design. It's not a chiplet design. So this is their like full like no MCD RDNA 3 GPU. So that's why I was curious to do some testing with it. So we'll see. I might look into some stuff like how it compares with Intel's A750. Might have to get an A750 now, but I'm not going to do that immediately. I have to recover from spending like $300. But anyway, that's going to be it for this stream. Hope you guys found this content entertaining in some way. You're going to look at AV1. Is this going to be a black screen? Well, no, I'm not going to stream in AV1, but I might do like some DaVinci Resolve like renders in AV1 and that sort of thing with this card, and then do the same thing with like the Intel card and see if there's any difference. I doubt it because you're not doing anything in real time, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, once again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.